a dragon trainer, fired from his country, finds himself in a neighboring kingdom with his dragons. He is determined to build the strongest nation, starting from this new land. A woman with striking purple eyes contemplates a desire to be reincarnated as a seventh prince. A colossal, shadowy figure looms against a castle wall. A weary warrior, smoking a cigarette, mutters that it's no use, that there's no way they can win. He stands amidst ruins, a dark mass nearby. Below, a town is being consumed by monstrous, smoky forms with a lone figure standing in the devastation. The military empire of Dragania is shown under siege, with dragons wreaking havoc amidst collapsing buildings and explosions. A massive, shadowy form looms in the background, while the narrative questions what truly constitutes the strongest power of this era. The word dragons is proclaimed on a scroll. A colossal dragon unleashes its fury, tearing through buildings and engulfing the scene in fire and destruction. Amidst the chaos, silhouetted figures witness the terrifying spectacle. The flag of Dragania flies, its emblem signifying a formidable power. A scroll proclaims that faced with Dragania's invincible dragon rider army, other countries were quickly invaded. Amidst this, a dragon rider on a magnificent dragon appears before a cheering crowd, who exclaim their excitement and admiration. Elsewhere, a large, buzzing insect flies towards a building, passing by a window where a man, sweating and distressed, watches it and mutters, "Must be nice." Dragon riders get so much attention, a man mutters, standing with a rifle at the bottom of a grand staircase. He is surrounded by the snarling, screeching heads of many dragons. Elsewhere, a weathered signpost displays cryptic symbols, and a pair of imposing double doors marks an entrance. The man is told he is fired, and he reacts with confusion. Then a figure identified as Breed Stallion declares, "As of today you are." An irritated official enjoying a meal speaks of disarmament. He then tells a shocked Tiri, "Hide, young man," that he is fired. The official explains that the great empire Dragania has conquered all surrounding lands through relentless advances, leaving only small countries not worth attacking. Because of this, the higher-ups decided they no longer need more troops. The young man, resigned, reflects that he had expected this, given the decreasing number of dragon trainers, and realizes he's simply being cleared out as useless clutter. The harshness of working as a dragon trainer is laid bare. It's dirty, dangerous, and the lingering smell makes one hopeless with girls. The young man, having just been fired, wonders if it's truly okay for him to quit. He observes figures walking away, imagining the relieved look on the faces of those who have quit their jobs, and then sighs, perhaps coming to terms with his own situation. The former dragon trainer reflects that while some dragons might be obedient, most are particular about their treatment and have their own personalities, making them difficult to handle. He notes that soldiers can't simply feed and clean them on their own, as the work is complex and time-consuming, involving shelter repairs, health management, feeding, and medicine. He then considers that if he were to quit, there would be no other dragon trainer left. A large sound effect, grab, rings out. The former dragon trainer tells someone that they cannot simply reduce the numbers of the dragon rider army, the symbol of Dragania, but he claims he doesn't care. He then points out the great cost of maintaining dragons, calling them money, eating vermin. The other person grimly suggests, "How about we just slaughter enough of them until we can manage it?" The former dragon trainer reflects on the immense cost of caring for dragons, stating that he knows better than anyone. He explains that they require large shelters and incur hefty medical fees when sick, and replacing them is also expensive. He then considers that if getting fired will save their lives, perhaps that is all he can do as a lowly guy like him. ***, refining narrative flow ***, meticulously extracting the essential narrative elements and conversational exchanges from the manga page. My focus is on capturing the essence of the story and character interactions, while ensuring the right-to-left reading order is maintained for accurate interpretation. The page opens with a character presenting a thick, worn book, explaining, "Here it's a collection of everything you need to know about taking care of dragons." Another character acknowledges this with clutch, "I understand." Meanwhile, a disgusted observer remarks, "Smelly. If you could." The young man, overwhelmed, declares, "No need for this." He is then scornfully told, "There's not a single thing worth learning from you. You're just a lowly breeder." The former dragon trainer reflects on his 20 years of work, feeling that while he was entrusted with tasks, it wasn't true appreciation, and he was often yelled at. He concludes that his work was not special, as anyone else could have done it. Meanwhile, someone says step and another person reacts with "Who-h?" A monstrous hand crashes down, shattering a desk and trapping a terrified individual beneath it, their screams echoing. Kneeling nearby, someone pleads, "This is something important to me, so I'd like to have it back, please." In a separate moment, the former dragon trainer places something down, remarking, "Place, and then I'll be praying for your good health." Two armored women approach the former dragon trainer. One asks if he's been fired, while the other mocks him, saying he never had skills and was stuck with his work until he started smelling like shit. They boast that if it were them, they'd be done with the job in a jiffy and off to play with girls. The trainer, holding a telescope, asks if they can be entrusted with the work, to which they dismissively reply that if an old man like him can do it, it'll be a cakewalk for them. A man suggests that giving a dragon a good kick will make it listen, then muses that he might be lucky to avoid dealing with difficult colleagues. The armored figure reacts with shock, and a loud impact follows as a dragon roars. Meanwhile, the former dragon trainer observes a dragon, noting its calm personality means kicking it won't be enough to anger it. while others comment on Dragon's sturdy scales and thick muscles before falling silent. A character asks an old man what is wrong, and the old man replies that thinking about it has made him excited. Another person considers trying something new, contemplating jobs outside of dragon work like in a store, transportation, or as a cook, deciding to focus on themselves for now. Meanwhile, a distressed individual looks intensely at someone asking if they have a problem. In the lower section, a character holding a piece of paper is shocked, questioning why they were glaring and then denying something. Another figure, armored, draws a weapon and is challenged, asked if they are asking to get killed. The immense maw of a dragon descends, a terrifying menace. Below, two armored figures prepare to face the beast. One, sword raised and a confident smile on her face, readies herself for battle. The other stands firm, arms crossed, looking up at the colossal threat. A dragon lunges, its jaws snapping shut with a sickening crunch, crushing one of the armored figures as their companions scream in terror. Meanwhile, in the oppressive darkness, a monstrous dragon's head emerges, its eyes burning with malevolent light, while numerous other eyes peer from the shadows. A lone figure sits by a barrel, seemingly oblivious to the terrifying spectacle unfolding around them. A dragon-like creature complains about training, noting that it has already quit. Elsewhere, a creature thanks the trainer for his help. The trainer resolves to say his goodbyes before leaving for good. He then kneels before a group of dragons, interacting with them intimately and looking emotional as he touches their faces. The young man watches a candle flicker, remarking that it seems to be the last. He then turns his gaze toward a castle, announcing that the next step is to go inside. A path leads into a vast, dark space, revealed to be the oldest dragon shelter, created around the time the Dragon Rider army was formed. As chains rattle, he learns that only the single dragon remains there. The young man has entered the oldest dragon shelter, and before him, bound by heavy chains, is the sole dragon remaining. He speaks its name, Barbarossa. The young man confronts the ancient dragon, Barbarossa, chained within the oldest dragon shelter. He is revealed to be the leader of all the dragons here and Dragania's oldest dragon. It is said that the heroic king who built the empire of Dragania once rode this dragon, though she is now retired. The young man stands before the ancient dragon Barbarossa, who is confined within a large enclosure. He notes that Barbarossa, usually lying down, is now being told to sit up. The dragon fixes him with an intense gaze, and he feels as though she can see right through him. Barbarossa lets out a growl, but the young man declares his purpose. He has come today to say his goodbyes. The young man, overwhelmed, speaks on a device, lamenting that after all he's done, he's being repaid by being fired due to cost cutting. He then turns to the ancient dragon Barbarossa, asking her to look after the other dragons for him when he's gone, confident she's smart enough to manage. As he speaks, Barbarossa begins to shake violently, and he asks if she's worried about him. The young man laments his entire life feeling unappreciated, with his efforts unpaid and his work unrecognized. He admits he's starting to cry, finding that a dragon's concern makes all the pain he's endured feel worthwhile. He then turns to the chained dragon Barbarossa and states he will be praying for her good health. The young man's words seem to have unleashed something within Barbarossa. With a deafening roar, the ancient dragon strains against her chains, which begin to shatter. Force of her struggle sends the young man reeling backward in shock. The sound of her breaking free echoes from within the shelter. Suddenly, the young man is grabbed from above with a loud chomp, and exclaims in surprise. Elsewhere, a character curses, looking at the moon. Two armored figures react with alarm as a castle rumbles. One of them vows revenge on that old man and his dragon, promising to show those dragons what's up. With a deafening crash, the ancient dragon Barbarossa bursts through the stone walls of her prison, unleashing a torrent of destruction. The young man, reeling from the force of her escape, cries out her name, Barbarossa. Oi, stop! As a smaller dragon screeches and flees into the chaos, the young man is left to witness the terrifying spectacle of the free dragon. The free dragon Barbarossa continues her destructive rampage, her roar echoing as she bursts through the remaining walls of her prison. The young man is caught in the flying debris, desperately trying to avoid the colossal beast's fury. In the background, other dragons are seen amidst the chaos, reacting to the terrifying spectacle. The ancient dragon Barbarossa's escape unleashes a deafening chorus of roars as more dragons break free from their prison. They surge forward through the collapsing structures, adding to the overwhelming chaos. The prison crumbles as more dragons surge forth, their roars deafening. Amidst the collapsing structures and flying debris, the earth itself seems to tremble with the fury of their escape, a deafening rumble marking their liberation. The ancient dragon Barbarossa continues her rampage, her roar echoing as the structures around her crumble and collapse. The sheer force of her escape causes a deafening rumble that shakes the very earth, filling the air with debris. Amidst the overwhelming chaos, a terrified voice cries out, "Oh God! Oh God! Oh God!" The young man stares in disbelief as more dragons escape the dragon shed, one after another, amidst the deafening rumble of collapsing structures. He questions if they are all planning to leave with him. Elsewhere, a person in a helmet reacts with confusion to the sounds of destruction. The ancient dragon Barbarossa roars as she smashes through stone walls, a knight in armor witnessing the destructive spectacle in shock. Amidst the chaos, a dragon screeches and bats fly overhead. The young man, overwhelmed by the unfolding events, can only exclaim that he doesn't know what's happening as the ground trembles with a deafening rumble. The chirping of birds fills the air. As the young man's eyes open, he stretches and yawns, remarking that he had a good nap. The young man, having just woken up, finds himself surrounded by a multitude of dragons. He looks around in confusion, seeing them resting, and then finds himself in a clearing filled with them, exclaiming his bewilderment. He then appears to have found a source of water, reaching his hand into a cascade. The young man observes that they must be somewhere up north, noting the colder weather. He recalls his training and familiarity with the land, but admits the dragons struggle in cold places, and even the Empire had trouble attacking here. He wonders why the dragons came, concluding there's only one reason. He muses that they might have thought he was fleeing the Empire, but points out that while it's good they left the Empire's territory, it will be difficult for them to find food here, adding, but the young man observes that the area they've entered is turning into a wasteland, and with hundreds of dragons, the grass will be eaten in no time, especially since it's already short in this cold region. He realizes he needs to come up with something, as he can't let the dragons starve after they followed him and believe in him. He calls out to the dragons, and one of them tells him to move a bit to the left. The scene reveals a vast, dark opening in the ground, identified as the nest of the Grand Python. This colossal, poisonous snake is shown to be a monster that even a sturdy dragon would struggle to defeat. The young man, observing the dangerous creature, notes that he has only minimal healing supplies, and that it would be wise not to provoke it, as he simply needs a place to rest. The young man runs through the barren landscape. He sees a colossal snake, a grand python, and a flying dragon. He wonders if the snake is hunting, but senses something is off. As a dragon flies towards a bright light, he questions if it was released. He looks up bewildered as another dragon flies overhead. A tremendous impact rocks the area with a deafening slam. Amidst the chaos, the young man, dazed and covered in debris, can only manage a confused A tremendous impact shakes the area as a massive, armored dragon crashes down amidst a storm of debris. The young man sitting on the ground looks up dazed. An unsteady armored figure identified as a person appears, prompting the thought, was this the bad feeling I had? The young man remarks that he thought the dragon's movement would be more natural, and then asks if someone dodged it. A knight in armor declares he won't miss again as an attack strikes. A character caught in the chaos questions why they are being attacked and tries to stop it. Another armored figure demands to know if they are from Draganian Dragon Corps and states they aren't allowed to trespass on this territory. The young man, realizing the gravity of the situation, understands that being outside the Empire means he is in another country's territory, and with 100 dragons, he has messed up. One character insists there's no point arguing, stating they can't die because of a misunderstanding. The young man observes that their opponent is strong enough to easily kill a grand python. Then, the colossal dragon, Barbarossa, unleashes a ferocious attack. A knight flinches as a dragon roars. A massive impact, a slam shakes the area, and a dragon crashes down amidst debris. The young man, startled, notes that while the flying dragon's charge is powerful, its attack patterns are limited. A knight warns that an attack is coming from the right, identifying the attacker as Barbarossa. Amidst the chaos, a loud smack echoes as a dragon is struck. Another armored figure tells someone to be on guard from the right. A tremendous impact, slam, rocks the area as a dragon crashes down amidst a storm of debris. Meanwhile, the young man observes that while some orders are given by mouth, others are conveyed through hand signs, realizing that the real orders weren't from his mouth. An armored figure questions if something else was at play, noting that the action didn't follow the orders. "All right, Barbarossa, it's all according to plan. A feat like this is only possible because of you." An armored opponent, caught off guard, crashes down and admits failure. Relief washes over one observer, thankful that if a certain person was injured, it would have caused yet another misunderstanding. Amidst the widespread destruction, a dragon's injured leg is examined, its discoloration leading to the question of whether it was bitten by the Grand Python. Meanwhile, a figure makes a determined advance, stepping through the debris and chaos. A figure's face is seen, whispering about poison needing immediate removal. Meanwhile, a spear is thrust forward, and a young man looks on. A character is then shown impaled by a massive spear, crying out in pain as blood splatters. An armored figure declares they are borrowing the spear, prompting a surprised reaction from another observer. The page ends with a hand gripping the spear shaft. Amidst the chaos, a tremendous impact, slam echoes as a dragon is struck. Blood splatters and a dark liquid drips onto the ground. The young man, battered and bleeding, is told it's all right and that he'll be better in no time, accompanied by a soft laugh. A voice wonders if something was poisoned. Meanwhile, an observation is made that a situation looked bad, followed by the thought that even sturdy dragons shouldn't be overconfident, as many things in nature can kill them. A hand offers something, saying, "Here you go, thank you," with a promise that the wound will heal. Suddenly, the young man cries out in terror, realizing this is bad. This knight was trying to kill me in the first place. As blood drips, a knight reassures another, "No, don't worry," after a clang. Another knight laughs heartily. Meanwhile, a striking female knight, despite her confident posture, admits, "I've lost. I failed." The defeated knight gasps in realization. It was, and wonders, a woman. Meanwhile, the young man ponders him. He then reflects on the incredible skills of his opponent, noting their ability to heal a dragon's wound without him even noticing, and to bring down a flying dragon with an earth dragon. He questions if this means they are truly confident, recalling how they returned their sword without hesitation even after he attacked them. A striking woman in armor introduces herself as Fianna Shin Leviton, the first princess of the northern country. She apologizes for her rudeness, explaining that as a princess from the countryside, she doesn't know much about the world, and admits she was late in introducing herself. The young man reacts with surprise to her name. A retainer expresses disbelief that the princess would hunt the dangerous Grand Python by herself, calling her crazy for not even having an escort. Yana herself thinks she's about to be scolded by her retainer again. The young man observes that she seems to be misunderstanding something, but then offers that in exchange for saving her people, he'll let her do whatever she wants with him. Yana declares that for a princess like her to have lost, there's no room for resistance, and if he doesn't want to shed more blood, he can just take her to Dragania. The young man is shocked, exclaiming mistress, to which Fianna replies that she won't mind even if he makes her his mistress. Fianna offers that rather than killing him, there might be room for negotiation, and she guarantees her sturdiness, calling her situation a blessing in disguise since she's not even married and might be close to his age. Suddenly, the young man cries out in distress, yelling for her to please calm down as she becomes aggressive towards him. A quiet moment settles between them, a dragon's head visible in the background. Fianna asks the young man if he will listen to her story, and he agrees. She then reveals she knows he was banished and that the dragons followed him of their own accord when he was about to leave, identifying him as a dragon trainer from Dragania, to which he simply replies, "I see." Fianna questions why Dragania would banish such a skilled dragon master, deeming it unbelievable and run by idiots. Meanwhile, Breed sits thoughtfully. Fianna then bows, apologizing for a mistake, but Breed tells her to stop, stating a princess shouldn't be bowing to him. As he's asked his name, he replies, Breed, prompting the other to question his expression. Fianna urges Breed not to belittle himself so much, and he looks distressed. He then admits she was mistaken about the hero king of Dragania, once known as a legend, noting that few possess such skills. Breed, however, states that even if things have turned out this way, he is not leading the dragons. Breed clarifies that he is not a legendary figure, but simply a regular dragon trainer and caretaker. Fianna looks on, then gazes out at her homeland, Leviton, a weak country perpetually on the brink of perishing. She explains that no matter how hard she tries, they lack the time and people needed, and even the demanding skills of dragon riding and monster hunting have their limits. Her constant thought is how to save her beloved country. Fianna, the first princess, asks Breed if he would come to her country with the dragons, and then wonders why he wouldn't. The banished young man, observing this, asks if it's all right with her, musing that this is also some kind of fate. Fianna asks Breed if he's going to hire her, noting it's not a bad offer for someone banished from his country. Breed considers the offer, but worries about the housing and food needed for the dragons and for himself. Fianna agrees, believing the dragons will increase her country's power. Breed hesitates, but Fianna declares she'll take him up on his offer, mentioning the 100 dragons. Breed then protests that food and shelter will be provided, but insists she's wrong about something. Breed expresses his concern that the dragons can get extremely stinky. Fianna is stunned, and he explains that she's underestimating the care needed for 100 dragons. A small creature clarifies that the smell is only a problem if they're kept indoors, where their waste would contaminate the ground. Fianna then points out that Leviton doesn't have facilities for so many dragons, and the whole country will start to stink while they're being built. Breed acknowledges this, stating it's not something to take lightly. Fianna leans in close to Breed, sniffing him and reacting with surprise and distress as he jolts. Breed, meanwhile, feels dizzy from a strong smell and questions if Fianna truly doesn't take proper baths. Fianna acknowledges the potent odor, noting it's enough to make her dizzy. Fianna leans in close to Breed, commenting that she hates a certain smell, but then admits she doesn't really, and that a smell of this level is no problem for a princess like her, even as Breed looks overwhelmed. Breed then explains that his weak country needs dragons and someone who can control them at will, promising to provide the necessary facilities. Fianna declares, "I really want you." Breed, looking overwhelmed, reflects that he should be grateful for her hiring him. Breed recalls the harsh words from his past, being called a salary thief and told to stay out of the dragon shed because he was stinky. He reflects that he was never treated as important, that everyone called him a nuisance, and he thought his life would just continue that way. Then he heard the words, "You are needed," and for the first time in his 20 years of life, he felt like it wasn't all for nothing. Overwhelmed by Fianna's declaration that she needs him, Breed's emotions overflow as he cries, finally feeling like his life has meaning. Fianna looks at him, thinking she wants to be useful to him. They stand before a massive dragon, Breed appearing distressed while Fianna looks towards him. The dragons growl, their imposing heads filling the top panels. The massive claw taps down and Breed looks up, startled as a dragon roars. Fianna asks Breed if there are any problems, and he turns to her, assuring her that if the dragons need anything else, he will make sure to fulfill their needs. Breed declares, "I, Breed Stallion, will serve you with all my loyalty." Breed, having pledged his loyalty, kneels before Princess Fianna amidst a gathering of immense dragons. A colossal dragon roars, its head filling the foreground, while countless others observe from the rocky landscape and soar through the sky, witnessing the pact between the banished dragon master and the princess. Flying on the back of a dragon, Breed and Fianna approach a desolate, mountainous region with a towering structure in the distance. As they land, Breed exclaims in surprise, "Oh, so this is the place," and Fianna confirms their arrival. "We're here." The chapter title suggests they may not be welcome. Breed and Fianna arrive on Dragonback at Leviton, a grand castle perched on a hill. Fianna confirms their destination. The story's premise is summarized. The exiled dragon master and the princess, taken in by a neighboring country, will accidentally become invincible, transforming the weak nation into the continent's strongest dragon paradise. Diana, clad in armor, stands over Breed, telling him not to be considerate and to take a good look. Breed, bewildered, questions her. He then observes the castle, remarking on its small size. The area is clearly devastated. Most houses are run down, and practically all the men perished in a war, leaving only the elderly, women, and their children. Castle walls themselves have long since collapsed, and a makeshift bridge is the only way across. Reed recalls surviving a long and grueling battle, mentioning that Dragania invaded when he was a child, and asks if a war has broken out here. Diana reflects on her past, recounting how her country was thrown into utter chaos, and her siblings lost their lives on the battlefield. She states that the saving grace was their survival, and now she is bound by a single duty, to protect this country at all costs and rule over it. Meanwhile, Breed is told, by the way, Bree, and reassures someone that he told the dragons he would catch up with them later, so it's all good. A question is then raised: is it okay to leave the dragons behind like that? Anna acknowledges Breed's exceptional skill in taming dragons, noting that while remote control is impossible, she can summon their over 100 dragons by whistling. As they approach their destination, Breed announces they are about to land. Upon their arrival at the castle, the inhabitants are surprised and relieved to see Princess Vienna has returned. Vienna returns to the castle, greeted by a dragon and the inhabitants, announcing she has brought souvenirs. As locals wonder about Bree, her attendants identify him as an incredible dragon master and Vienna's hand-picked scout. Reed then introduces himself, warning that a large number of dragons are coming soon, which will make things hectic. He is then addressed as Dragon Master. Two elders look on with concern as Breed, distressed and tearful, is addressed with a gentle plea. Princess Vienna reassures Breed that he will be of great help, then tells the gathered villagers to return to their work. An attendant informs Breed that they will show him the way to the dragon's stable. Diana tells Breed that it looked like he wasn't welcome, but assures him the villagers will come around once they see his skills, explaining they are wary of outsiders in this remote place. Breed expresses frustration, feeling they will take him lightly if he keeps acting wishy-washy, and Yana remarks that for all his skills, he sure doesn't have guts. Reed then concedes that unless he shows them with his actions, words will do him no good, admitting he might have been a bit naive. Diana asks Breed what's wrong and tells him not to hold back, but he seems unsure. She then suggests he rehearse talking to her as if they were friends. Breed appears flustered, but Vienna warns him that she's short-tempered. He agrees to drop honorifics, and after he says good, Vienna smiles and comments on her own eyes. Princess Vienna tells Breed to prepare himself, but concedes she will let it slide today, though she is still against being casual with him. He then confidently declares that he will stop being formal with her before he knows it. Breed, distressed and tearful, is shown in a forest setting. He looks bewildered and confused, with a question mark appearing above his head. He is then directed towards the Leviton Kingdom's dragon stable, where someone calls out, "Hey," and Minnie, a woman in armor, questions Breed about the dragon master working there, finding it strange that the person she's looking for isn't in their usual spot. He explains that dragons tend to take a liking to girls, making female dragon riders common in the Dragon Night Guard. Breed learns that the person they are seeking is nowhere to be found, but they decide to wait for her, assuming she's just busy. Breed tells Vienna not to worry, stating he'll introduce himself to someone and it's no big deal. Vienna agrees, saying she's counting on him. Reed then declares that his #1 priority is to earn the townsfolk's approval through his actions, as words won't work here. Vienna adds that she came to help because she was told she was needed, before remembering something else she forgot to mention. A woman with horns tells the man that she is fond of guys who are good at their work. Flustered, he wishes her the best of luck, thinking to himself that her words are bad for his heart. Minnie admits that talking to people is her weak point, though she wonders about someone. Meanwhile, a woman with horns describes a troublemaker who rides dragons recklessly, while a man agrees she's a troublemaker, but is grateful for the job and the chance to use his dragon taming skills. The man, looking worried, then recalls how cute she is, remembering a time she beat him up out of jealousy because he was getting along with another girl. A character is roughly squeezed, groaning and complaining that Big Sis is so mean. They are then shown hanging from chains, struggling and thinking that even though she has them, she was careless enough to take in this lowly bumpkin. Elsewhere, a character looks on with a tearful, worried expression, hoping that they can all get along with each other. Someone groans in distress as they are told they don't belong and should leave to avoid getting hurt, with the speaker questioning if she is involved. The person being held then declares they are employed by Miss Vienna as a dragon master, but is told, "I can't do that elsewhere." A character evades an attack, shouting, "I will have you get along with me too." Minnie declares she doesn't give a damn about him. Reed insists this is his dragon stable, but Minnie tells him to get lost. Minnie, the woman in armor, acknowledges hearing about an incredibly skilled dragon master who can tame 100 dragons at once. Meanwhile, a character reacts with shock, finding the claim impossible. Later, Breed confronts Minnie, accusing her of being an insufferable big mouth and tricking Big Sis with a lie. Minnie retorts, questioning how he can claim to tame 100 dragons when the general theory is that a dragon master can only tame one. A violent impact echoes as a distressed figure reacts. Breed sweats and gulps, being told, "I'll tell you one more time." Then a woman with a menacing smile orders him, "Get the hell out, you prick face." One character sits outside a building, lamenting, "I've been fired again elsewhere." Someone is distressed, thinking, "This is bad," They explain that despite repeated attempts to offer help, she always snaps and rejects my offers. Meanwhile, another character observes the situation, concluding, at this rate, the dragons must be making their way toward the forest by now. A person walks through a stable carrying a bucket and cloth with a cow and horse nearby. Nearby, a building stands amongst trees. A hand gently strokes a dragon's snout. A woman looking weary declares she could never trust a dragon master and asks for a break. A woman's scream erupts, making a man flinch back and stammer, "In our room." Another person, raising a hand, declares they won't go inside, insisting the other has it all wrong and calling them a bastard. The man then looks towards a wooded area, asking if it's all right to use the area beyond. A man tells a woman that the area she's interested in isn't under his authority, so she can suit herself, to which she responds with a dismissive mph. Minnie thinks it's about time for them to arrive, and that she can show she's useful to her, receiving an okay. Meanwhile, a creaking sound is heard as someone observes that there's no sound of movement from the dragons, and questions if someone is giving them instructions to meet up, finding the idea ridiculous. A loud thud echoes as a woman states she instructed them not to make noise. Nearby, a man observes that if 100 dragons were truly coming, there should be some sign. Meanwhile, a large dragon's head looms and a sudden, forceful stomp occurs, eliciting a surprised ha. The earth trembles with a deep rumble as a vast horde of dragons bursts forth from the dense woods. They surge forward into the open, a terrifying wave of scales and teeth. The dragons arrive precisely on time, having made it without making any noise as instructed. One character is stunned, realizing the claim about taming 100 dragons wasn't a lie. Another character questions how dragons could possibly move so silently, as even a single dragon would normally cause an uproar throughout the entire village with its earth-shaking roar. The man, caught between a dragon's snout and a desperate plea, is recognized for having accomplished something immense all by himself. Elsewhere, a woman's angry growl signals her frustration. The man urges someone to walk, but a struggle breaks out as he grabs a distressed woman who is falling. The person who made the dragons perform so well is acknowledged, with one character admitting that their skills were the real deal, attributing it to extreme training. Meanwhile, a statement of distrust is made. "I don't trust dragon masters," accompanied by a dragon's growl. The man wonders why she distrusts dragon masters so much, then vows, "You just wait." A woman radiating menace declares she will expose him as the fraud he is. The girl recalls her childhood when she was fascinated by dragon masters depicted in children's books. He admired how they interacted with dragons as if they were close friends, and unlike dragon knights, the masters who tended to the dragon's needs were her heroes. Though others regarded her as an oddball, she couldn't help but admire them. The woman admits the man is a skilled dragon master capable of remote control, but declares she was mistaken about him. She then adds, "But as I said." Meanwhile, the man asks if the dragons were put through extreme training. As a creaking sound is heard, he tells her she has it wrong, exclaiming in surprise that she must have done something terrifying to them. A dragon stares intently from an opening. A woman calls out to Kusuk, pulling him along and urging him to dash, while he notes that the dragon has many scars. Another person questions if they are seeing a dragon. The woman apologizes to a dragon, calling it Kusuk, and tells it to return to the stable before hugging it. Kusuk observes this, realizing the dragon's name. The dragon's scarred face is then shown. The man, looking determined, says anyway as another voice declares, "I don't trust you a bit." The woman, her face filled with menace, warns, "Try laying even one finger on my dragons." She follows this with a threat, "I'll kick your ass." The intensity of the moment leaves someone stunned. Elsewhere, a man despairs, lamenting his own lameness and how he will explain himself to Miss Yana. He also admits to being scared of a girl younger than himself. A woman playfully teases a man who is crying out in distress, asking him, "What about me?" as he flinches. Elsewhere, a woman pushes someone named Bleed away. Meanwhile, Miss Yana arrives, stating that now that her work is done, she has come to check up on someone. On a bench, a dejected man observes that things don't seem to be going well for someone with many. The man observes that someone skilled enough to tame 100 dragons might struggle with a single girl, while the girl wonders why she looks down on dragon masters so much. Meanwhile, a conversation reveals that a particular dragon was the first one she helped hatch, and it was her favorite among all the dragons. The man then asks about that dragon, and if they have met up with Kusuk, the name echoing as he reacts. Minnie, having pushed herself too hard while caring for a dragon for the first time, fell ill and remained sick for 3 days. Meanwhile, a young girl recovered from her own illness. Upon getting better, she heard a creaking sound and saw something terrifying, a chained creature that radiated menace. In a doorway, another young woman called out, "Kusuk." The woman admits she hit a dragon too hard, causing it to lose consciousness, but tells someone not to worry. He explains that the dragon wouldn't stop growling, so she straightened it out by whipping it. Meanwhile, another conversation is happening where someone asks about going on a date, suggesting they did a favor by looking after something. The woman continues, saying it won't hurt to return the favor. Suddenly, a powerful kick lands, sending someone reeling with a cry of pain and a splattering impact. The girl tells the dragon she would have never let anyone else take care of it. Meanwhile, someone observes that if they had known this would happen, they would have prevented it. A voice calls out Kusuk as a kick lands. Another voice asks the dragon why it is worrying about them, while another character calls it an idiot. The scene then details the dragon suffering, being deprived of food, whipped for bad behavior, fitted with iron shackles, and locked in a cramped stable, causing it to gradually become worse for wear. The woman explains that the dragon masters she looked up to were nothing like the heroes depicted in children's books, leading Minnie to stop trusting them altogether. A man sighs and a question about bleed is asked. Another woman asks for forgiveness for someone's behavior. Meanwhile, a man states he isn't talking about Minnie, but then expresses overwhelming relief. The man admits he thought a woman hated him because he stank, lamenting his lack of popularity with girls. To his surprise, she erupts into laughter, saying it was the last thing she expected him to say. He apologizes for not being able to hold back her amusement and asks if he's going to be alright. The woman states that Minnie's aversion toward dragon masters is quite severe, but her offer of help is rejected. Meanwhile, a man declares that he is someone who has been acknowledged and put great trust in, while another states that asking for his help with a certain matter is out of the question. The man, assured of the princess's faith in him, proclaims that handling Minnie should be a simple task, a mere piece of cake. Meanwhile, someone confirms the presence of all the dragons, receiving an affirmative reply. With newfound resolve, a decision is made. Let's show her. The young man, gripping his equipment, reflects on the true nature of a dragon master. A woman with long dark hair looks down thoughtfully. Below, a red-haired woman is startled awake in the straw, exclaiming that she dozed off. Elsewhere, a young woman sits in the grass pondering, Kusuk. Meanwhile, a bloody knife is held by a hand as someone through a doorway asks, "What are you staring at?" In another scene, a young woman looks into a room at a small creature. The young man, determined, shouts to the assembled dragons, "All of you get to work." Various dragon-like creatures are visible around the settlement, some in the air and others on the ground, as if responding to his command. The dragons are put to work, their activity causing a tremendous commotion, a scream echoing through the area. A character watches in amazement, exclaiming that the forest area has been developed incredibly quickly in just a couple of days. The dragons are working tirelessly, carrying out construction and development across the settlement. One observer marvels that the young man is managing this immense task all by himself, as if the dragons are an extension of his own will. Another character notes that directing and controlling so many dragons would typically demand a great number of people, but it's feasible if one has 100 dragons at their disposal. A dragon lets out a grunt, and a woman clenches her jaw. Meanwhile, the young man, Kusuk, is hard at work climbing over structures and directing dragons that are carrying heavy wooden planks. He is covered in dirt and sweat, but his expression is determined. Observing the scene, a woman remarks that it looks as though the dragons have placed their full trust in Kusuk, and that they don't even hate him. A group of dragons stands in a dusty clearing. A girl calls out to Kusuk, but he pushes her away, telling her to move. She cries out for him to come back, her eyes wide with fear. She explains that Kusuk is terrified of others, not just humans, but even dragons, ever since a past incident. She fears he is helpless without her, and worries he might get injured if other dragons were to attack him. A man urges someone to just watch. A young woman looks on with concern. Another woman, her eye welling with tears, whispers her fear that Kusuk is mingling with the other dragons. In a dusty clearing, Kusuk is seen interacting with a group of dragons while a young woman and a man observe the scene. A man explains that dragons raised by humans tend to become wary of their own kind and need chances to interact with others of their kin to mature. Someone else recalls always having a feeling something was wrong, and catching Kusuk looking at dragons from afar, realizing the signs were there. Meanwhile, a young woman's heart pounds as she wonders if keeping Kusuk locked away from others means something significant. One woman declares Kusuk is amazing, while another expresses distress. Normally, once a dragon loses trust in people, it never tries to interact with them again. However, Kusuk tried to get out of his shell and face things head on in his own awkward way. A character cries, stating that someone has become a very honest dragon because they've been dealing with things head on. Below, Kusuk rallies his companions, shouting, "Let's get this done with everyone." Kusuk beams, his smile wide as dragons surround him, their presence no longer a source of fear but of connection. A figure with dragon-like features watches intently. Meanwhile, a dragon emerges from its burrow, and a hand points to a scene depicting a basket of fruit, hinting at the world and lives of these creatures. A woman watches Kusuk, admitting she's no match for him. He is being nuzzled by dragons, tears streaming down his face as he reaches out, surrounded by the creatures he once feared. Meanwhile, the new dragon's stable is finished. Kusuk praises the dragons for their hard work, telling them to go rest while he takes over. He then wonders aloud about the whereabouts of someone named Minnie, holding a hammer. He continues working on a large stable, confident it will be able to house 100 dragons. Suddenly, Kusuk is struck by something, letting out a cry of pain. Meanwhile, another character, concerned about having acted out of line with Kusuk, hopes he isn't angry about it. A sharp sound cut is heard. Minnie finds Kusuk, calling his absence lame and asking where he ran off to. He explains she went to fetch supplies for him, telling him to leave things to her if he needs anything. Kusuk flinches, asking Minnie if her words mean something, and she replies that she can let him go inside every now and then. Minnie then turns her thoughts to the dragon's stable. Minnie, flustered, tells Kusuk not to get the wrong idea, explaining she's only helping him because he looks a bit useful. Meanwhile, Kusuk grips something tightly, thinking he needs to avoid causing trouble. Then Kusuk holds Minnie's hand, thanking her profusely. Minnie, surprised, asks why he suddenly held her hand. Minnie apologizes, explaining her gloves smell and she's drenched in sweat from working hard earlier. She then tells Kusuk he hated if she grabbed his hand like that. After a sigh, she calls him a dummy and says he's completely off the mark. Kusuk turns, startled, as someone laughs and tells him to turn. A Sep shows Kusuk's dirty, sweaty hand. A woman with a knowing smile tells Kusuk he's such a weirdo. The chapter concludes, promising more to come. The Empire of Dragonia is depicted with its imposing castle. Captain Sarah Valian of the Dragon Knights Force receives a report. She learns that the patrol unit has been sent out to search for escaped dragons, as all but a few have broken free from the dragon's stable. Someone kneels before her. Emperor Bombard of the Dragonia Empire sits on his throne, looking displeased as he is attended by several women. He declares his disappointment, asking if the current situation is the best that can be presented. A man with dark hair sighs and explains that with so few dragons available, they have dispatched agents to the commercial city of Zeta and are now considering purchasing new ones. A man addresses his knight general, acknowledging her exceptional skills, but remarking that women are unreliable. He notes that she is the general of a country ruined by Dragonia, and her people were taken hostage, forcing her to pledge loyalty to Bombard. Another character states they have no need for dragons, explaining that caring for them is a significant strain on resources, requiring food, tending to injuries, and constant attention, all of which costs too much money. Instead, they propose capturing new beasts which are readily available and won't run away or die. The speaker declares they will train beasts and use them instead of dragons, to which someone else responds with a surprised ha. A man laughs heartily, declaring an idea to be brilliant. Meanwhile, a woman asserts that the other person is not allowed any say in the matter, and that this is a good chance to measure their abilities, reminding them that even dragons are beasts to begin with. Another voice expresses disbelief at the sheer stupidity of thinking one could tame beasts, noting that even trained dragons take time to warm up to humans, and that wild beasts will never properly listen to human instructions. Later, a subordinate with dark hair resigns themselves to following orders, seeing it as the only silver lining. A figure in a cloak walks away, their boots making a clacking sound. A woman in armor stands in a grand hallway, lamenting that if only a certain person were here, he might be able to destroy the whole castle by himself. She reflects on his talent for moving dragons as if they were his own limbs, and his rich knowledge of dragons that allows him to instantly diagnose any sickness or injury. She thinks it wouldn't seriously hurt for him to come greet her, but he is long gone. Someone wonders where he is. Kusuk, looking distressed and yawning, shouts, "Bleed." In the distance, a woman stands, silhouetted in a doorway. A woman in a dress smiles and offers to show someone around the town. Minnie, dressed in an unusual outfit, remarks that Kusuk looks different from his usual self. Kusuk, taken aback, questions if she knows him, prompting a sharp retort from Minnie. She admits she's never dressed like this before, hoping it doesn't look strange, but receives a compliment in return. Minnie then explains she dresses this way on her days off, noting Kusuk has been working non-stop in the stable and suggests he take a day off for a change. Minnie insists Kusuk stop resisting and take a break, as Fiona sent her to give him some rest from all his work. Kusuk, however, reacts with confusion and distress to the idea of taking a day off, with someone observing that he's in a bad state. Meanwhile, a dragon watches as a small figure dashes away from an open doorway, with a sign reminding them to brush their teeth properly. Later, as they look out over the castle town of Leventin, Minnie urges Kusuk to relax and enjoy the view, while he reflects on how he used to work all day, every day when he was still in Dragonia, and now that he's allowed to rest, he doesn't feel the need to. The marketplace bustles with chatter as people shop. A young woman with horns observes the lively scene, noting the presence of elders and children. She seems overwhelmed, admitting she's never been out before. Her superior, annoyed by her gawking, tells her to stop embarrassing them, to which she apologizes. The woman insists the man eat the food stick, calling it hot. He hesitates, worried about causing trouble for his superior and being too distracted. After he takes a bite and gulps it down, he exclaims how delicious it is, and the woman agrees. He finds the succulent meat melts in his mouth, identifying it as thorny lizard steak. Thorny lizards are described as vicious, aggressive creatures, essentially miniature versions of dragons. Kusuk laughs, telling Minnie that if his job is this rewarding, he never wants to quit. Meanwhile, someone muses that hunting beasts is a well-kept tradition in this town, wondering if their income is stable enough to afford eating thorny lizards all the time. Minnie then holds out a food stick and asks if she should show him something even tastier. The vibrant Levantine marketplace bustles with activity, displaying fresh fish and various food stalls. A woman proudly presents the scene, declaring it the pride of Levantine, and asking a stunned man what he thinks. The bustling marketplace is alive with activity, with Kusuk observing its unique liveliness and noting that the hunted beasts, after being cut into pieces, are sold to vendors. He remarks that today's big catch has made the place more packed than usual. Meanwhile, Minnie comments on the products from a grand python that Big Sisfi Yana hunted, expecting nothing less from her. She also points out merchants from other countries and shows off her gloves, calling them a work of art due to the old man's skill. A woman comments on the fine stitching and leatherwork of an item, telling Kusuk he wasn't supposed to touch it, which leaves him looking distressed. Meanwhile, a crowd cheers as the grand python Yana hunted is revealed, its enormous size proving a challenge for the hunters. Kusuk, identified as Bleed, is called upon to help with a strenuous task. While others offer their assistance or note their own limitations, Kusuk prepares himself. He then pulls with immense force, succeeding in a feat that even 5 people could not accomplish. The onlookers are amazed by his incredible strength. Minnie expresses relief that Kusuk or Bleed managed not to tear the product he was working on. Bleed admits he nearly messed up by ripping the skin, which would have ruined its value. The onlookers cheer, amazed by his incredible feat. Bleed cries, distressed by his near mistake, while someone marvels at his monstrous strength, wondering if there's a limit to it, even with his dragon training. Another character dismisses the idea that a human could rip the Grand Python's skin. Minnie dismisses the idea that Bleed's strength could be on par with dragons, while he remarks on having his hands on some fine skin, and others wonder what kind of dragons he's been dealing with. Men thank Bleed, noting that the previous task was too tough for them, and he expresses gladness that he could help. Someone comments that Bleed got all dirty, ruining his looks, but calls him a handsome man. Later, two men discuss their country's lack of proper water sources and their reluctance to waste water, leading one to ask if Bleed can just wash himself in the river, a sentiment echoed by the others. The country suffers from a lack of rivers, forcing its people, many of whom are elders and children, to rely on wells and struggle to get water. However, the possibility of a river could lead to the town's exponential development, which would delight Fiona. Later, Fiona is by the water and someone, likely Bleed, is holding her arm. Fiona tells Bleed not to hold back, as he was the one who made the current situation possible. ***, processing manga notes. ***, I'm currently working on extracting key narrative elements from manga pages. My focus is on translating visual and textual information into a coherent story flow, adhering to the right-to-left reading order inherent in manga. Extracting manga details. I'm now processing the visual and text elements, prioritizing the manga's right-to-left flow. My goal is to synthesize these into narrative points, ensuring I don't break character or provide meta-commentary on the page itself. Refining manga narratives. I'm now synthesizing the visual cues and dialogue, strictly adhering to the manga's right-to-left flow. My aim is to construct a concise story progression, focusing on inferred actions and reactions, to create a natural narrative beat for this segment. Synthesizing manga segments. I'm now integrating the visual cues and dialogue, strictly following the manga's right-to-left flow. My focus is on constructing a coherent story progression, inferring actions and reactions to create a natural narrative beat for this portion. Capturing manga sequence. I'm currently synthesizing the visual and dialogue elements, strictly adhering to the manga's right-to-left reading order. My objective is to construct a narrative that captures the sequence of a splash, a fall and subsequent surprise, followed by a struggle, without any meta-commentary. Capturing manga sequence. I'm currently synthesizing the visual and dialogue elements, strictly adhering to the manga's right-to-left reading order. My objective is to construct a narrative that captures the sequence of a splash, a fall and subsequent surprise, followed by a struggle, without any meta-commentary. Capturing manga action. I'm now synthesizing the visual and dialogue elements, strictly adhering to the manga's right-to-left reading order. My objective is to construct a narrative that captures the sequence of a splash, a fall and subsequent surprise, followed by a struggle, without any meta-commentary. A woman mentions that having a river would certainly be helpful, as she's in great need of a dip. Another woman states she might be able to draw a river, while Bleed comments that swimsuits are great, looking confused. Someone asks if they heard what Bleed just said, and he, startled, asks if he said something. Commotion erupts as a woman excitedly asks Bleed if it's true he can draw a river. An elder, impressed, remarks that it's no wonder Miss Fiona put her trust in him, and a child asks their grandpa if they can get a river. Bleed, flustered, replies, "Well, you see." Summarizing manga content. I'm focusing on the narrative flow from right to left, as per manga convention. My goal is to distill the events depicted on the page into a concise, descriptive summary for an expert audience, ensuring the length reflects the visual storytelling. Capturing manga events. I'm processing the dialogue and action from right to left, as is manga standard. My current focus is on distilling the immediate exchange regarding the young man's ability to create a river and the reactions of those present. Processing manga narrative. I'm currently synthesizing the dialogue and actions, adhering to the right to left reading order. My focus is on capturing the burgeoning anticipation and internal conflict surrounding the young man's promised river creation, acknowledging his eventual reluctant acceptance. By the water, two women in bikinis enjoy themselves. One invites Breed to join them, remarking how great it feels. The other, holding a watermelon, agrees and adds that the biggest contributor to creating this river shouldn't hold back. In the background, a figure relaxes on a lounge chair, while another stands by the water asking, "What's wrong, Breed?" Kusuke reflects that he had so much fun, recalling a memory of playful running and laughter. Hands touch, and a thought surfaces that it's just the two of them now, with a question about whether anyone's shopping. Later, Kusuke sits with a woman in swimwear by the water, holding her hand as they lean in close, their hearts pounding. A monstrous creature lunges, its jaws snapping. Kusuke is caught, struggling as the beast bites down with a crunching sound, its roar echoing. The woman asks in surprise, "Huh?" Meanwhile, someone bows deeply, apologizing and admitting they were just fantasizing. She then confronts him, asking if he was kidding about coming up with a great idea to draw a river for them. A rumor is spreading rapidly, and one character worries it has already reached the palace and will soon reach Big Sisfi, Iena, fearing he will be ostracized as a lying fraud and lose everything he worked hard to acquire. Meanwhile, a woman questions another's actions after a tense moment, though he dismisses his thoughts as unimportant. Suddenly, a great menace looms, and a character fears he might be executed, which would result in all his dragons being slaughtered. The man declares that he just needs to find a water source. After a view of the distant landscape, a woman questions if he is being too much of a wimp. He dismisses the idea that rumors are a big deal, adding that he wouldn't mind if they were only about him, but he would hate it if anyone spoke badly about her Lady Fee, Iena. A character asks how the other intends to find the source of water, then thinks about asking the guy for help before calling out. Minnie insists the forest is too dangerous and she needs to keep an eye on them as their superior, though she claims it wouldn't bother her. A navy blue-colored water dragon named Undine is then revealed. Undine, a water dragon, is introduced as a species that prefers watery environments and is praised for being cute and easy to ride. They can hunt effectively underwater and are surprisingly agile. Meanwhile, two figures discuss the vastness of the forest and their need to find a water source. Observing a water dragon, one character notes its ability to locate water, with Undine specifically able to smell it from a kilometer away and only reacting to clear water. Astonished by this sensory prowess, they decide to follow Undine, hoping it will lead them to the water they seek. One character muses that he doesn't want things to take too long, lest they become suspicious. Meanwhile, another asks what is happening. The technique of throwing a spear attached to a rope, used to stop a beast from escaping after it hits its mark, is explained. Someone observes that it's too dangerous to get close to a beast, noting that the spear throws are for hunting. A muscular man then asks if he could borrow the spear for a bit, to which the other replies that attacking from far away is the key. "Alright, I'm all set," one character declares, gripping a thick rope. He then explains there's a way to get their hands on the scent of water without having to walk through the forest. When asked what he's going to do, he unleashes a powerful throw of a spear attached to the rope. The spear attached to a rope is thrown with great force. It flies through the air, striking its target with a powerful impact and explosion. A hand grips the rope, and a man begins to reel it in. Undine sniffs the air, but reports it's a bust, having caught nothing. A character prepares to throw something suggesting a new method to find water. They explain that by having Undine sniff water seeping deep into the earth, they can greatly expand their search range. As they begin to tighten a rope, one character notes that this method relies on Undine's keen sense of smell, while another believes the user's monstrous strength is key to its success. A monstrous roar erupts as a creature lunges forward, startling two onlookers. Meanwhile, one character expresses optimism. "Looks like we got it this time," as they are informed they are getting closer to their water source. Another character reacts with a simple "oh." As they discuss the situation, one notes that while it's good, it feels off, and despite the lack of beasts, Undine is reacting strongly. A companion reveals he's been using dragon feces as markers, much to the woman's disgust, but he explains it can serve as a landmark when lost. He recounts his past experiences serving as a dragon master in Dragonia, where he often faced getting left behind or losing his way in the forest. ***, processing manga pages ***. I'm now focusing on extracting story elements from manga pages, adhering strictly to the right to left, top to bottom reading convention. My aim is to create concise, narrative-driven notes, avoiding any meta-analysis or structural commentary, ensuring the output directly reflects the depicted events. ***, extracting panel narratives ***, I'm meticulously dissecting each panel, prioritizing the manga's right to left, top to bottom flow. My focus is solely on the narrative content, capturing character dialogue and key visual events without delving into analysis, aiming for a direct story representation. ***, observing manga flow ***. I'm now focusing on extracting story notes, carefully following the right to left, top to bottom manga reading order. My goal is to directly represent the events depicted, focusing on dialogue and actions without any analysis. Water is seen gushing from a large rock, which one character identifies as the source of a nearby puddle. They consider moving the rock, with one person struggling to do so while another insists it's impossible, though later admits it might have moved. Upon closer inspection, a trace is found where the rock was pushed, but it's noted that half of it is embedded in the cliff, though Undine might be able to squeeze through. Meanwhile, a thought is expressed that a certain person loses track of their surroundings once they start eating. Feeling a headache from thinking too hard, the character decides to cool off in the water. He notes how crystal clear it is, unlike the murky mountain water typically found. He observes that this pond is made from spring water and shouldn't contain any fish. Suddenly, he wonders if something just moved, spotting white branches among the rocks and leaves in the water. The character enjoying the clear spring water is suddenly engulfed by a massive, violent whirlpool. As the water churns around him, a monstrous maw opens above, and he cries out in alarm. Nearby, a companion witnesses a colossal, plant-covered creature rise from the depths, its presence causing shock. He is suddenly engulfed by a violent whirlpool, crying out as a monstrous maw opens above him. A colossal plant-covered creature erupts from the depths, its massive jaws threatening to devour him. On the shore, A companion witnesses the terrifying spectacle. The character, caught in a violent whirlpool, cries out in alarm, yelling "Breed!" as he is pulled into the churning water and faces a colossal, dark, monstrous form. The page ends with a note that the story will continue in Chapter 6. Exiled from his homeland, a dragon master finds refuge in a neighboring country. There, he unexpectedly becomes unrivaled, embarking on a quest to transform a weak nation into the continent's strongest dragon paradise, aided by an old man and 100 dragons. The chapter opens with a colossal, monstrous maw erupting from the water, threatening to swallow the character whole. His companions cry out in alarm as he is pulled into the churning depths. The character is then violently thrown amidst a chaotic splash. Struggling against the churning water and the immense, dark form of a creature rising from the depths. This marks the beginning of the story. The Dragon Master, exiled from his country, unintentionally becomes unrivaled in a neighboring country he was taken in by, until the weak nation becomes the continent's strongest dragon paradise. The monstrous maw of a colossal creature looms, water churning around it. A terrified young man, caught in its clutches, fears being ripped apart if he makes one wrong move, realizing the creature's strength is monstrous. The character identifies the monstrous creature as a milk crocodile, explaining that its name comes from its powerful jaws capable of crushing prey to pulp like a millstone. He notes that this specimen is enormous, twice the size of a normal milk crocodile and larger than Undine. He realizes the white debris floating in the water were the crushed bones of animals the creature had ambushed and devoured while they came to drink. The character finds himself in turbulent water, a fish struggling amidst the churning. He realizes that no help is coming for him and doubts he can hold out much longer. Meanwhile, he considers that Minnie might be trying to order Undine to chase after him, but notes that a certain creature rarely listens to anyone else besides her. He is then shown struggling against the overwhelming danger, realizing the situation is dire. The character recalls a time when he was about to lose all hope, and a dragon bit his gloves hard, but he didn't shake it off because he thought it was fun. He then remembers something similar happening while he was taking care of dragons. He sneezed suddenly, which caused the dragon to loosen its bite. He realized that no matter what living being you're facing, if they let their guard down while exerting force, you have a chance to stand up against them. The character is violently thrashed, crying out as he slammed with a heavy thump. He struggles against the chaos, exclaiming this, and then reacts with surprise, noting it as a foul, stinky odor fills the air. The creature lets out a guttural bleg as it gulps, but the character sees an opportunity. He realizes the creature is distracted and declares he will make his escape. He recalls that milk crocodiles have poor sight but sharp noses. Then, with a determined whoopee, he makes a forceful move. He coughs up water and bubbles, realizing he has finally escaped but is now too far from the surface and completely out of breath. Despite the dire situation, he resolves that if he has no air, he will simply dive through the water. With a determined surge, he pushes forward. Gasping, he pleads to be let out of the water. Amidst the violent churning and a deafening roar, he cries out in alarm. However, he then observes that the rocks in the water are filled with bubbles, and with a determined okay, he declares this is just what he wanted, pushing forward through the chaotic depths. He is violently thrown, landing with a heavy thud on the rocky seabed. "Eat on that rock," he shouts as the creature recoils in surprise. The character is violently propelled through the water, landing with a heavy impact. He surfaces, gasping for air amidst the churning. A woman named Breed reaches out towards him as he struggles in the water, both panting from exertion. Breed found the young man on the shore, gasping for air. He assured her he was fine, though she had been worried sick about him after seeing the enormous milk crocodile. He admitted he was finally out of the woods but couldn't move a muscle, so he asked her to pull him up. As Breed offered her hand, the milk crocodile, still nearby, questioned why it took him so long to realize it was there and what had happened to him. The colossal milk crocodile erupts from the water, its monstrous jaws opening wide. Breed and the young man stare in shock as the creature unleashes its power, accompanied by the sound of a devastating crunch. The colossal milk crocodile's jaws snap shut, trapping the protagonist, who cries out in panic that they've run out of something vital. Despite a desperate attempt to stop it, the creature unleashes its power, crushing the protagonist with repeated, heavy impacts. The colossal milk crocodile looms, its gaze fixed on Breed. The word menace underscores its terrifying power. The creature's snout is shown, perhaps panting or reacting to the recent events, while water churns around it. The milk crocodile turns away as a dragon appears, identified as a descendant of ancient rulers who once controlled the entire continent. Its presence instills a deep, immemorial fear, and the milk crocodile shudders, unable to withstand it, regardless of its own size. The dragon-like creature Undine is truly something else. The fear instilled in milk crocodiles, since ancient times, when water dragons used to subdue and hunt them, must still linger, as the colossal milk crocodile appears to be unnerved. Meanwhile, two figures, a woman in armor and a man, observe the situation. The man points, remarking that the milk crocodile has accepted Uniding as its master, and the woman muses that it's incredible someone could overwhelm such a large beast with just his own power. Another character's eye appears, hinting that they might use this creature's power. Breed questions the protagonist's actions, but he explains he's enlisting the milk crocodile's incredible strength to help move a large rock. He asks Breed if it's a great idea, and she comments on his typically wild plans. Meanwhile, an observer understands that Breed is relaying instructions to the milk crocodile, presumably from Undyne. The protagonist and Breed strain together, with the protagonist shouting in exertion. Suddenly, another person grabs hold, offering a helping hand. As they all pull with immense effort, the protagonist notes their progress and urges them to push it all at once, while the new helper cries out in surprise. Breed and the protagonist continue to exert themselves, their faces showing the strain, as the dragon Undyne watches them quietly. The protagonist confirms their efforts worked well, believing they might be able to create a river with the vast amount of water now appearing. Breed is astonished by the sheer volume pouring out. As the water surges upwards with a mighty gush, Breed tells the protagonist that all that's left is to have dragons dig a ditch to direct it. Meanwhile, the protagonist strains against something immense and rocky amidst the torrent, questioning if there's too much water. The protagonist and Breed strain with all their might on a thick rope, their combined efforts causing the earth to erupt and water to surge. Their faces contort with exertion, a wild look in their eyes as the immense rocky structure they are pulling against begins to crack under the incredible force. The immense effort causes a violent explosion, unleashing a torrent of water that overwhelms the protagonist. As he struggles to stay afloat, he cries out for help, but then expresses thanks, acknowledging Undyne's intervention. Pond implodes in a massive eruption of water, unleashing a torrent that threatens to flood the town. As the water surges, someone expresses concern that this could cause significant damage. Meanwhile, Breed is located, and a voice calls out to her, followed by a surprised question. Lady Fianna, the blonde-haired woman Fianna, is questioned about the massive amount of water, while her companion grimly states they are in deep trouble. Nearby, a white-haired woman declares her actions unforgivable and vows to pay with her life. Another figure apologizes profusely, admitting they spoke out of turn and inadvertently raised hopes before failing, resulting in the town being flooded. Amidst a demonic cackle, someone pleads for their life, while another character addressing Big Sis Fianna takes responsibility for her own interference, suggesting it might have made things worse. Fianna suggests that the protagonist and Breed are under a gross misunderstanding, then tells them to come along. The protagonist looks died, and a voice tells him he will understand once he knows what he has done. The protagonist, Breed, and Fianna then walk away from a large dragon. The protagonist looks out at a body of water, where distant figures seem to be cheering. Beside him, Breed and the protagonist react with shock, realizing that a river has been made. Cheers erupt as the town is revealed to be safe with a whole new river having been made. The protagonist, however, looks on in surprise, questioning how this was possible when he had feared the water would flood the city. The protagonist's companions express relief that they finished their work in time, noting they had to do it themselves after others left. Meanwhile, old men are seen using scoops to work on something. Breed doubts that people would go to such lengths without solid proof of success. Fianna acknowledges that many people worked hard on a plan with very low chances of success. In the lower section, Breed expresses concern that all their work would have been for nothing. Another character asks Fianna if she factored in the protagonist's potential failure. Fianna, however, states that she was the one who called the shots. Fianna asks if something is not at all the case. The protagonist, flustered, tells Lady Fianna that Breed is a man he's approved of. A small companion states they have a good reason, while the protagonist, feeling Fianna might be overestimating him, expresses happiness that she trusts him. He then states he is just a mere dragon master, but Fianna assures him she believes he will achieve far greater accomplishments than this. Fianna tells the protagonist she expects far greater things from him next time, to which he agrees, though he seems overwhelmed. Meanwhile, the protagonist questions why Breed is acting so strangely, wondering if he's a masochist for being led around. He then urges Breed to come on, admitting he doesn't understand the situation himself. A declaration is made. It's the glorious return of our hero. The story is to be continued in Chapter 7. In the northern forest of Dragonia, a group strains against ropes, trying to move a massive dragon that refuses to budge. They shout in frustration, demanding it just listen to them. Elsewhere, a cloaked figure tells armored knights that taming beasts is impossible, especially when compared to dragons who have learned to listen to humans over the past century. The captain of the Dragon Knights Order witnesses this, remarking on the inborn viciousness of beasts and concluding that making them listen is impossible. The observation is made that while they manage to barely hold onto something with help, it's doubtful anyone could ride it. Amidst shouts of a dash here, and right, left, a figure is thrown through the air with a cry of Yahoo! Another voice calls out, a little step here and up you go. Someone is launched into the air with a cry, told to be sure to cushion their fall, and then there is a massive impact as they crash down. Nearby, a figure asks, "What do you think, Captain?" Prince Marco asks if his actions were impressive. The dark-haired individual replies that it was magnificent, though he notes that Marco joined the Dragon Knights Order despite having very low chances of succeeding the throne, despite coming from a royal bloodline. He then adds that he is not a fan of Marco. Meanwhile, a figure is heard falling with a clack sound, and a hand reaches out to grab them, asking, "Right?" A character asks another if they want to give something a try, to which the other confidently replies that they are also skilled at taming women. Following a smack, one person dismisses their comment as a joke, calling it vulgar, while another notes they don't seem to like him after all, remarking that they never had such ruffians back in their hometown. Meanwhile, a large battle unfolds with figures riding dinosaurs, one of whom laments losing to thieves in Dragonia. Another character on the ground calls out to their allies. A group of knights, led by Prince Marco, celebrates and declares their intention to raid a nearby village, promising the spoils to their men. One of them scoffs at the idea of anyone being foolish enough to oppose Dragonia. However, another questions the wisdom of attacking another country's territory and the potential for retaliation. A grim-faced individual then states that if someone is that stupid, they simply must be killed. Reed finds himself in Leviton, utterly bewildered by something he sees. Elsewhere in the town, farmers present a magnificent harvest, their gratitude evident. They explain that after suffering for so long due to scarce water, Breed's act of creating a river has made their fieldwork vastly easier, saving them from dire circumstances, and they hail him as a messenger of God. A woman clarifies to Breed that these farmers wish to express their thanks to him. The grateful farmers, who Breed saved by creating a river, are planning a large party to show their appreciation. They invite Mr. Breed, expressing their hope that he will attend. Breed reacts with shock, exclaiming what? He protests that he still has work to do, but the farmers earnestly beg him to stay, even offering to look after the dragons for him. A woman tells Minnie he'll be fine and to do his best, but he's scared and calls for help, saying it's frightening to be alone. Behind them, figures wait, telling him they'll see him later. Minnie then gasps, seeing something that earns his big sis a good reputation. A large dark shape, perhaps a dragon, lets out a huff and declares, I guess I'll take that girl with me, as a large house is shown. Aphrodite, the red dragon, is unleashed, with a young man urging it to ride on a big ball and knock everyone's socks off. The dragon moves with incredible speed while a trainer watches. Meanwhile, a crowd witnesses impressive taming skills, remarking that it's just what they'd expect from someone Lady Fianna brought along, and that Sir Breed's dragon's taming skills are something else. The red dragon Aphrodite, a female said to have the blood of Barbarossa, is described as nimble as a cat and capable of almost anything, her performance proving to be the right choice. Sir Breed is being offered food and drink as a token of gratitude for his splendid efforts, and he accepts, admitting he's starting to get tipsy. As he drinks, someone remarks on how delightful and pleasant Sir Breed is, while a dragon watches the scene with a stare. An older man continues to serve drinks to Breed, prompting someone to tell him he's making Breed drink too much. Around him, women marvel at his muscular arms and ripped physique, with one playfully chiding another for getting too close. As Breed continues to drink, they offer him water and comment that he must be pleased with his popularity among the ladies, joking about offering juice as an alternative to alcohol. Breed enjoys his popularity, thinking it's his ultimate phase and that he'll enjoy being fawned over by the ladies. Suddenly, a terrifying, shadowy figure appears, radiating menace and letting out a growl that frightens the women. Breed apologizes, explaining that the dragon is simply a little jealous. The dragon itself then appears, looking furious, and someone wonders if it's just them or if the dragon is incredibly pissed off. Breed remembers that whenever Aphrodite pouts, she stops listening to him. He tries to calm the angry dragon, apologizing and promising a good meal if she stops sulking, but she hits him. Dazed and unable to think straight after all the sake, Breed finds himself pinned by the dragon, feeling a sense of deja vu. A sudden impact shakes the air. Breed is then seen being carried away by a furious dragon, shouting an apology as the creature lets out a guttural roar and people flee around them. Amidst the chaos, two observers comment with surprise that Breed seems to be popular with dragons as well. The chapter concludes with a note indicating it will resume later. Aphrodite's fury continues, violently shaking Breed. Dazed and drunk, he pleads with the dragon to calm down, but the assault persists. He wonders what will happen if he keeps being shaken around in his current state. A character is being guided with hands pointing the way. Elsewhere, a person feels nauseous but is almost at their destination, suddenly remembering something about the place. Nearby, a dragon looks on with wide, surprised eyes. A vast field of flowers stretches out under a bright, sunlit sky with petals drifting through the air. In the distance, amidst the blossoms, a solitary figure stands bathed in a soft, ethereal light. Breed is with Aphrodite, leaning against her as she looks up at him. He plucks flowers from a field, then prepares a flower crown. He explains that no matter how foul her mood, she stops sulking when he puts a crown of flowers over her head, because she loves them. He then places the flower crown on Aphrodite, who has taken on a fox-like form, and tells her it suits her and she looks pretty. Breed is with Aphrodite in a place he memorized because she likes it, mentioning it's a good spot he found while looking for water. He laughs as Aphrodite makes a happy sound, but suddenly she growls, her eye flashing in alert. Breed then tells her, come on, let's head back. Anyway, I'm glad you cheered up, as she seems to have calmed down again. Aphrodite suddenly grabs Breed's collar, startling him. As he tries to get away, she pursues him through a clearing, asking if she's still mad. Heavy impacts echo around them as she looms over Breed, who can only stare in shock. A flag bearing a symbol flutters as a scene unfolds where a dragon lies defeated and another rears up, accompanied by armored figures. Breed, witnessing this, exclaims in shock, recognizing them as Dragonia's Dragon Knights. Breed is shocked by the appearance of the Dragon Knights, demanding to know what they are doing there. He realizes the immediate danger and tells Aphrodite they must escape. As he tries to get her to safety, the ground cracks violently around them, erupting in a massive explosion. A massive explosion erupts, leaving Breed kneeling amidst the debris. Two Dragon Knights arrive, one recognizing him as the Dragon Master that got fired and questioning why he is there. A Dragon Knight, recognizing Breed, expresses surprise at finding him there amidst the destruction. As Breed is caught off guard, Aphrodite lets out a fierce roar and lunges at him. Following the chaos, two Dragon Knights approach Breed, who is kneeling on the ground. A Dragon Knight sneers at Breed, identifying him as a laggard who reeks of dragons. Breed, stunned, can only stammer a response as the knight demands confirmation. Dragonia's Dragon Knights are seen in action, with one dragon defeated and another rearing up. A muscular Dragon Knight with a cruel smile addresses Breed, asking if he is indeed that dragon master who reeks of dragons. Reed, stunned and on the verge of tears, can only stammer a response. A man with dark hair, likely Breed, is shocked and asks who the new arrival is. Another figure, perched atop a strange, spiky creature, makes a slump sound. Meanwhile, a new confident man with white hair declares that he is Sir Marco, the fourth Prince of Dragonia, and a strong candidate to be the next captain of the Dragon Knights Order. Reed can only react with a simple OH. Sir Marco's fellow Dragon Knights praise his first-rate skill and arrogance. Despite his royal status, Reed watches, shocked, as two knights angrily confront someone, one yelling threats and the other accusing Marco of doing something on purpose. Marco then questions why Mr. Marco is present. Meanwhile, another knight reveals their intention to use Aphrodite, referring to her as this lizard, and that they've been training her. Marco dismisses the situation, stating they are in it for the long haul and to look at him. Reed wonders if lizard beasts are being used as substitutes for dragons, noting that taming such wild creatures is normally impossible and questioning how it was achieved. Meanwhile, a combatant spins a weapon, calling out to someone not to just stand and gawk. Reed, with a grin, questions what the target is as a powerful energy blast erupts. Aphrodite leaps into the air as an explosion erupts below. The Dragon Knight taunts Breed, remarking on his skill at dodging attacks, while a spear is twirled and thrown like a boomerang. Then a beast lunges and grabs Breed, leaving him stunned with surprise. A Dragon Knight is thrown to the ground with a thud, remarking on the dragon's attachment to its master. Meanwhile, Breed angrily questions why someone jumped him, and if they are alright. He then pulls someone or something before turning to confront another person, demanding to know if they don't remember a particular scar. A scarred man, ambitious and aiming for promotion, vows to rise through the ranks. He declares that he will kill the country rebel if he gets his hands on them. Meanwhile, a knight with glasses prepares to thrust his spear, stating he will kill the rebel anyway. In the background, a chaotic battle unfolds, with knights recalling Breed's past attempt to escape with his dragons, during which he was injured after tripping. Breed is accused of being a country rebel and suspected of stealing 100 dragons. He is told he has a bounty on his back, with orders to capture him alive or dead. Breed defiantly responds with step. A knight shouts a battle cry addressing Aphrodite. Another knight observes Aphrodite's ferocity, remarking that she's eager to fight, unlike her wimpy master. Meanwhile, one of the knights lands a powerful blow, sending someone crashing down. The victorious knight grins, telling his next target to dance for him. A character, looking troubled, questions why someone is so adept at using beasts. Meanwhile, figures are seen in rapid motion, accompanied by whoosh sounds. It's noted that training these beasts is incredibly difficult, practically impossible, as they would normally attack humans on sight and never warm up to them like dragons do. Suddenly, a monstrous, skull-like creature emerges, prompting the question of how it was managed. The beasts are shown, their scales and teeth glinting. Breed watches, a disbelieving laugh escaping him as he murmurs, "Don't tell me." Then a fighter brutally strikes a beast, grunting in exertion. He explains his method. "It's pretty simple, yeah? This is the charming part about controlling them through fear. This is how I train them." Breed stares in horror, stammering you. The menacing individual declares that his way of doing things is different. He explains that while he was always taught to treat dragons with care, he can use these new beasts however he sees fit. He then performs a sharp action, and a creature staggers, appearing to be torn apart. The scene shifts to a wider view of the landscape where figures move amidst the chaos. The sound of intense impact or struggle echoes as a man's face is shown in close-up, his expression a mixture of fury and distress. Below, a dragon master speaks, stating that while they may be beasts, they are still living beings, and as someone entrusted with their lives, he lives alongside dragons. He then tells someone they have every right to be angry, and apologizes for trying to run. A dark-haired man accompanied by a beast declares that he cannot overlook the cruelty of these guys. Below him, a blonde-haired man, seemingly in armor, reacts with disbelief and anger, questioning if the other is mad. The scene ends with a note that the story will continue. The beasts are commanded to attack Breed all at once with a roar of charge. Breed dodges a fierce attack from one beast, while another panel shows a monstrous eye with text surrounding it. Breed stands ready, facing multiple charging beasts. Fierce roars and intense attacks erupt as someone shouts, "Get a move on already, you pieces of shit!" A violent impact is heard and a voice exclaims in surprise, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" A terrifying, massive force then erupts, causing everything to shudder. Below it, a figure struggles. One person declares, "I just need to do this, while another resigns themselves with, "Well, whatever." Meanwhile, a frustrated individual curses, "Damn it, these useless dumbasses." Marco declares he will skewer his target the moment it moves, while another fighter boasts their vertically rotating attack will be impossible to dodge. A massive impact then occurs, shaking everything. A fighter grins, his attack described as menacing. His opponent is shocked, exclaiming in surprise. The fighter expresses disbelief, realizing his spear was stopped by his opponent's muscles alone. The opponent, straining to hold the spear, admits he isn't fast enough to dodge attacks, but his opponent agrees that no special skill would be needed to evade this particular attack. A man named Marco prepares to pull out a knife, stating it's time to pay a favor back. Meanwhile, someone shouts in outrage, protesting being addressed by name and calling themselves a noble person. Elsewhere, a man riding a dragon confronts another, calling him an impudent, lowly dragon master. He's coming, a voice cries out as powerful impacts and leaps fill the air. The battle rages with incredible speed and force. Amidst the chaos, one observer notes that the fighter, despite their skill, is an amateur on the battlefield. Another character questions the nature of these dragon-taming skills, reacting with shocked disbelief. A spear is launched, and its wielder confidently boasts that their target, a dumbass, wouldn't understand distance, certain the spear will reach. Suddenly, a massive impact occurs, and the target is shown in a state of shock and distress. Another observer gasps in disbelief, wondering how this is possible. The attacker used his fingertips to close the distance. A massive impact, a thud, then occurred, and a man's face was shown in distress. The attackers reel back, staggering from an unseen force, one dropping their spear while another cries out in terror. A weary figure, slumped and injured, finds renewed resolve. Looking ahead, they vow, "I will get you for this." As a distant foe is urged to flee, a dark sky is questioned about the presence of Dragonia's soldiers and whether they intended to attack Levantine. Meanwhile, a young man, having apparently survived a dangerous situation, admits he was terrified but managed to pull through somehow. Another voice suggests his survival was due to him staring daggers at them, mentioning Aphrodite. Separately, someone decides to go back, needing to report something to Fiona. Amidst a pile of dragon-like creatures, one of which is named Fawn, the young man realizes they are super popular. The young man pets a creature, remarking that its stillness was not just because of a certain presence. Suddenly, a surprised GW is heard, followed by a chew sound effect, indicating an affectionate interaction. He then recalls returning to town, sighing at Aphrodite's behavior. His companion, a dragon-like creature, warns him that his actions might prevent him from finding a partner, just as it happened to them. The scene is the office at Levantine's castle. A woman observes, "I see." A nervous man nearby asks what their opponents are planning. The woman then voices her surprise, stating she never expected Dragonia's soldiers to be stationed so close to their country. Meanwhile, a thought crosses someone's mind that the current situation shouldn't pose much of a problem, but there's an unspoken implication. The room is incredibly messy and someone addresses Lady Fiona, asking if she's the type who's bad at organizing her room. Fiona sits calmly amidst the chaos. The figure then apologizes for showing something unseemly, confessing they've never been good at cleaning their own room. A man asks who she is, learning that it is the maid who tends to his needs, and that her absence is problematic. He is surprised to hear that she has a maid. Meanwhile, another man arrives somewhere new, noting it has been a while since he's been there, just as a sense of menace descends. A silhouetted figure laughs and exclaims, "Whoa!" Elsewhere, a character is struck with a heavy thud and another thump, crying out in confusion, "What is this?" Another person, eyes wide with fear, is addressed directly, "Hi there, mister." Reed Stallion. Finally, a menacing figure surrounded by the word menace declares, "I am." A monstrous spinning figure makes a dramatic entrance, accompanied by the sound of rapid twirling and a partial utterance. Meanwhile, two maids introduce themselves as Lady Fiona's exclusive maids. The man reacts with shock, questioning how they entered the room and if they are indeed maids as the name Vina is presented. Reed Stallion, Dragonia's pariah and a genius dragon master, confronts someone, listing their reputation for dismantling beasts and drawing a river, and noting they brought 100 dragons and are employed in Levantine. The person he addresses confirms this. Meanwhile, a maid giggles and a voice asks why she knows his name. He then remarks on his popularity with the villager ladies. When asked if she's a ninja maid, she proudly declares she is, and something of a rarity. The maid Vina, who asks to be called Vi, reveals her alias and her background as a descendant of ninjas who pledge loyalty to their master and handle all sorts of dirty work. She speaks of espionage, infiltration, and political string pulling. Meanwhile, someone expresses surprise at the existence of ninja maids, recalling reading about them. Another character is grabbed, and a humorous comment is made about ninjas, not adding that I do to their sentences, with the name the Gozaru mentioned. Mr. Reed is addressed, and it's stated that the "that I do" phrase only happens in fiction. Someone explains that Vina was found collapsed on the beach, and having nowhere else to go after leaving her homeland, was allowed to work there. The other person notes Vina changed her hair color and discarded her homeland's clothes, asking not to pry into her affairs. After a brief exchange where one character agrees to understand, the maid Vina, with a mischievous grin, declares that while probing is wrong, she has secured some valuable information. Dragonia, having lost its dragons, has resorted to capturing beasts and using them as replacements, doubling their patrols to intimidate neighboring countries. Reed Stallion realizes that the beasts he defeated earlier are now among these creatures. It appears Dragonia is forcing the beasts into obedience through pain, as evidenced by a pile of dead beasts near their station. The character receiving this information finally understands. The man reflects that he would have met the same fate if he had stayed, recalling how Dragonia was executing people left and right, and is currently very low on funds, resorting to hiring amateurs for peanuts. A woman observes that Dragonia seems intent on thoroughly cutting down on financial costs. Another suggests it would be faster to just buy the beasts, while the first woman questions what Dragonia plans to achieve by capturing them. The man states their nation is a total mess, and one woman wonders if the country isn't heading for a downward spiral. Another woman finds this unbelievable, as the man explains their policy is to recruit new members and expand their numbers, planning to use them until they drop to make costs cheaper. The women observe that Dragonia's actions, such as cutting costs and expanding their forces, are exactly what a cornered country would do. They believe the capturing and training of beasts are preliminary preparations, and that Dragonia might be conducting military exercises near other countries to provoke a reaction and find an opening for invasion. This leads them to conclude that Dragonia might be planning to start a war. The other character agrees, realizing that once their training is complete, an attack is likely, meaning they cannot afford to remain idle. A woman asks Vina if she can count on her, stating they will infiltrate a station and conduct sabotage without being discovered. Vina agrees, saying, "Yes, mum, as you wish." Meanwhile, Princess Fi Yana has asked for a favor and she smiles. Someone is shocked, exclaiming that Yana tidied up a messy room in a flash. Chapter 9, second half. I am a ninja maid. A young woman, seemingly the ninja maid, is shown in a cluttered room, her presence dominating the scene. This is the station of Dragonia's army, located near the borders. Tents and soldiers are visible, suggesting a military encampment. From a high, rocky vantage point, two figures survey a vast military encampment. Peering through binoculars, one exclaims, "There are so many soldiers." The other simply confirms, "I see." I see. From a vantage point, two figures observe a vast military encampment where over 100 soldiers are building a fortress amidst their tents. Their mission, they state, is to destroy that fortress. Breed Stallion questions Vina why she brought him along for such a difficult infiltration and sabotage, and she asks if a complete amateur like her would get in the way. Vina then winks, remarking that a lovely maid like herself would certainly stand out if she appeared in front of a bunch of rowdy men. Vina prepares to use her skills, confident she can handle the task. When asked if they might be recognized, she assures them it won't be a problem. Meanwhile, Breed Stallion is startled as Vina uses her ninja disguise arts, transforming his face into something unremarkable. He is amazed by the effectiveness of the technique, especially given his past in Dragonia. Breed Stallion expresses concern about his ability to handle the sabotage alone, but Vina assures him she will take care of it. As preparations are made, with one person instructed to turn away and remove their clothes, Vina suddenly grabs Breed Stallion, who is utterly shocked by the abrupt action. Mechanical sounds accompany the declaration, and now, a formidable figure in imposing armor boasts that their methods can even change one's physique, while a nervous character remarks that the situation is killing two birds with one stone. The armored figure is described as huge. Someone questions how another acquired armor usually reserved for Dragonia's vice-captains, who replies it's a secret. A worried individual wonders if they will be alright, admitting that in a worst-case scenario they might have to rely on the Black Dragon Odin. Someone remarks that even if they find themselves in a bind, Odin will be sure to save them. They describe Odin as taciturn, never showing expressions and possessing strength that is a match for 1,000. His agility and sharp ability to read his enemies' movements make him a formidable force, and he is the one they trust the most. His skill at erasing his presence is truly something else. Amidst a sudden consonant, someone exclaims "OH!" as glowing eyes appear in the darkness, followed by a moment of silence. Vina explains that a certain technique wasn't hers, but drilled into her by a captain. Meanwhile, Breed Stallion appears to be observing something, perhaps reacting to Vina's words. In another part of the scene, someone remarks on a powerful dragon who is incredible and on par with their lurking skills, noting it would be hard to find another like him among their own dragons. Later, Vina addresses Breed Stallion directly as Mr. Breed, eliciting a startled reaction from him. They then survey the enemy's fortress, a vast hideout from which there is no turning back. Vina asks if Breed Stallion has steeled his resolve, and he hesitantly confirms that he has. A figure crashes down with a heavy thud. Then, a colossal, armored beast carrying a rider emerges, poised for action. The rider asks, "Well, shall we go?" The chapter concludes, promising more in Chapter 10. A young woman with red hair, dressed in a vibrant red kimono, smiles as she holds a blue wind chime. Vina instructs Mr. Breed to avoid any unnatural movements, and he agrees. She assures him she will help if he finds himself in a bind. Meanwhile, Breed Stallion, inside a massive suit of armor, is told he looks sketchy, and to keep his back straight. He recalls once carrying an injured dragon, and Vina remarks that his incredible core strength makes it impossible to tell he's carrying a person. Elsewhere, two figures warn that they are about to run into soldiers. Vice Captain Blood returns and is greeted with salutes by his men. He is advised to be careful and carry himself with confidence, to which he agrees. Elsewhere, two workers are instructed to work hard. Meanwhile, a woman is unable to focus due to someone whispering in her ear, causing her to twitch. She is then asked about her lack of confidence and told she needs to focus. The speaker expresses how fascinating the dragons were, especially the one Princess Fi arrives, noting the constant surprises since arriving in this country. Another character internally admits they can't focus on what's being said, adding that while they're talking about dragons, they're actually not fond of animals. They then identify a fortress in the back of the buildings and ask where they should head. One character declares their intention to plant bombs on the columns, to maneuver them inside without being caught, while another exclaims that she's raving on while they're a nervous wreck and adds that they especially hate dogs and want them kept away at all costs. Concerns are raised that if the fortress is completed, there's a high chance it will lead to an invasion of Leviton. Vice Captain Blood declares he must see his mission through to the end for Fianna's sake and the country's. Meanwhile, a new soldier named Vani arrives, startled to see the Vice Captain, and announces she has come for training, looking forward to his tutelage. A group of people are gathered, with some commenting on the Vice Captain's kindness. Meanwhile, others ask if they can join Vani his training, but are told the Vice Captain seems busy. He begins to walk away, stating he is busy, but someone in a helmet shouts that they've got it all wrong. They explain that the vice captain likely refused training because he intended to train everyone. A determined young woman, ready for training with others behind her, declares they are all set, confident that the vice captain never disappoints. Someone is dragged along, protesting that this isn't the time for such actions, lamenting that they've been pulled into a messy situation. As two figures count out 1, 2, 3, 4, a knight in armor stands by, remarking that they have been brought to the training grounds and will make them practice their swings for now. A trainee asks for feedback on their form, but the vice captain, who is supposed to be training them, is preoccupied and thinking about making an escape while everyone else is busy. He finds the number of people frustrating. Meanwhile, some trainees notice the vice captain's unusual behavior, as he's normally strict but hasn't been instructing them. A trainee who is practicing realizes their suspicious actions are drawing attention and needs to cover their tracks, while another wonders if the vice captain is simply not at his best today. An attack is launched with a cry of "Here I come!" as someone urges the vice captain to show his strength. Amidst whispers that he's being underestimated, a large armored figure moves, causing alarm. One character, resigned to a situation, declares, "I guess I've got no choice," as they perform a stealthy maneuver embracing another. A distressed observer laments that these men clearly don't respect their superiors at all. A sharp gaze is fixed, and a sword is drawn with a swift wish into the willow stance. This is identified as Kazama's one sword style, accompanied by a mechanical clink and a startled turn from an observer. The technique culminates in the floating fang. An attacker is shocked, exclaiming that all of their attacks were deflected. Vina, witnessing this, gasps in amazement. She then instructs Mr. Reed to match his breathing with hers. The armored fighter unleashes a powerful strike, overwhelming an opponent who cries out in pain. Vina, watching, asks if they should finish the fight, and the armored fighter agrees, continuing the assault with a secret technique known as Kazama's one sword style. The sounds of their intense exchange fill the air. The armored fighter unleashes a powerful attack, shouting "Fortress Slit." The immense force of the blow sends debris flying. Facing this overwhelming strike, the opponent attempts a desperate thrust and twirl. The armored fighter, the vice captain, defeats his opponent, who concedes. Observers are astonished by his skill and a stance never before seen in Dragonia, noting he defeated Vani in an instant. Later, a maid embraces the vice captain, who claims he was going to stop his sword before reaching his opponent, but she playfully tells him he would have killed him if she hadn't intervened. Vice captain lets out a sigh of relief. His maid then embraces him tightly, declaring they somehow got through the crisis, while he finds her a bit too much. She then reminds him that they've wasted a bit of time and must now head to the fortress to plant bombs. A woman calls out to Captain Sarah, stating she has business with her and demanding she come along. Captain Sarah is depicted, and the sound of a beating heart or rising tension fills the air. A grim blood is declared as one character admits they are in disguise with a different face. Meanwhile, an important meeting is scheduled and documents are expected. An armored individual, feeling under the weather, is informed they cannot take the day off due to the arrival of higher-ups, leading them to worry they will cause trouble at the meeting. Elsewhere, someone resolves to look for an opportunity to escape. The maid resolves to buy time by engaging someone in conversation, knowing Vina is likely planting a bomb in the fortress. Meanwhile, an armored figure is urged to think of a topic that might interest someone. Later, a character's intense gaze is shown, followed by a question posed to an armored individual. Incidentally, what do you think about that matter? Leaves rustle as two figures stand facing each other in a desolate area. A man swallows nervously. Elsewhere, a woman comments that the issue is their use of beasts instead of dragons. Another woman states she cannot go against her orders, reminding someone that she already argued about it with the higher-ups. Despite this, she declares, "Of course I'm against it." The meeting is filled with people who favor using beasts, described as amateurs who are likely being bribed. One character tells Blood they are counting on them. Separately, someone remarks that Sarah really loves dragons. The fortress erupts in a massive explosion, spewing fire and debris. As figures watch from afar, one exclaims the fire is coming from the fortress. Inside, the cages have been broken, and the beasts are now loose and roaring. A knight is shown fighting desperately against one of the rampaging beasts. The explosion is confirmed to be Vina's doing, bringing a grim satisfaction to one observer. Amidst the chaos, another character resolves to use the confusion to escape. Meanwhile, someone volunteers to investigate the site of the fire and asks for orders for the others. A character moves with deliberate steps, while elsewhere, a heavy object crashes down and a runner pants exhausted. Vina congratulates Mr. Reed on his work, startling him. Elsewhere, someone calls out to Vina as she runs. Vina thanks the person she's speaking with, stating she's finished her task without issue and will credit their contribution to Miss Fiona. The other person replies that Vina should have been the one worried about them. Meanwhile, knights spot intruders amidst explosions and order them to be killed. A ferocious horned beast attacks with a mighty impact. Amidst the chaos, a figure called Odin is addressed by two people who are facing a hulking, armored adversary. Armored soldiers advance relentlessly, their weapons clinking. One of them groans that they just keep coming with no end. A young woman with elaborate attire tells Mr. Reedy can go ahead as she will hold them off. A powerful sound effect accompanies her declaration. A massive explosion erupts, sending debris flying as figures flee the blast. Amidst the chaos, a man asks if Vina is okay, to which a woman replies, revealing she has a ninja maid and that this situation is no problem for her. Two armored figures are caught in the blast, When crying out in pain, a man, after a moment of resigned acceptance, calls out to Odin, and they escape by riding a charging beast. A swift passage is heard as armored figures stand ready. A young woman winks, remarking that the mission was a walk in the park, but adding that it would have been better if Breed had managed his escape more skillfully. ***, developing story notes. ***, I'm now focusing on translating the visual and textual elements of the manga pages into a coherent narrative flow. My aim is to capture this sequence of events as if unfolding a story, strictly adhering to the right to left, top to bottom reading order, and omitting any discussion of the page structure. A powerful impact sends a figure reeling backward with a thunk as a wind shape streaks away. Elsewhere, another figure is struck with a heavy thud, groaning in pain and screeching as they fall. A voice then realizes, so it was you after all. A character with a chilling smile looks on, calling out the name Breed. A figure realizes they've been recognized, so she knew it was me, and is addressed as Captain. A woman reflects that she didn't expect her voice to be recognized, even as a direct subordinate, acknowledging the captain's excellent memory for all her subordinates. Captain confirms, "There's no way I'll forget your voice. I realized it was you immediately." The woman then ponders aloud. It was odd how Blood, a newly appointed subordinate, knew about Odin's time when he was still weak. A woman calls out, urging Breed to come back to Dragonia. Elsewhere, a man tells Breed he will cut straight to the point, expressing a high opinion of him. He praises Breed for his diligence, his willingness to accomplish daily tasks without complaint about unreasonable orders, and for never slacking off. The man concludes by stating he wants Breed in his ranks. The woman expresses surprise that the captain would ask Breed back, stating she would have done everything to prevent him from being fired. She then offers her full support, promising to improve his treatment in Dragonia and provide for him. Furthermore, she states that if Breed acknowledges his debt to Leventin, they will give him their word that they will not attack him. The captain makes an offer, but Breed kindly rejects it. The captain expresses surprise, thinking it's a good offer, while Breed acknowledges the captain's high opinion of him but dismisses his words as hypothetical. Breed explains that people breaking their definite promises to him was common, and he outlines conditions. The captain must promise to provide for him, ask for his treatment to be improved, and give his word that they won't attack. The man, his face etched with emotion and wounds, declares he would never betray that person. He recalls how she gave him a place to belong when he had nowhere else to go, quelling any opposing opinions against him. He remembers her holding him close, even when he reeked badly, and not finding him repulsive. This person, unlike Princess Fiona, gave him everything, and that is why he swore his loyalty to her. The man is startled as a bright light erupts. Elsewhere, a woman laughs heartily, while another chuckles quietly. The startled man then expresses deep shame, feeling he was absolutely right to be so. Meanwhile, a woman smiles, stating that Princess Fiona, whom she heard was a wonderful queen, has surpassed all her expectations. In a dark, rocky area, someone runs nervously, confirming that she is indeed a good person. One character asks another if they went out of their way to distinguish between them and the princess, to which the other replies that they are still very kind. Amidst a large display of the word menace, a voice asks if this means, "Do it if you mean it, right?" Meanwhile, Breed hears a clink and questions it, only for a voice to laugh and tell him not to play dumb. A woman, weapon in hand, smiles confidently and asks if she should attain her target by force. She then clarifies her understanding, implying that if the other party has time to ramble, she will take them, their beloved dragon and Odin. The chapter concludes. Captain laughs, calling the situation ridiculous, as Breed, shocked, asks why he is being chased. Breed, riding on a massive creature, is told he is the one who said he should stop complaining, and the captain declares they will catch him with their own hands. A figure is sent reeling backward from a powerful impact, denying they said anything to provoke it. Nearby, another character, looking downcast, states they were just saying they swore loyalty to Fiona. This prompts a question about dropping honorifics with the person they pledged loyalty to. Suddenly, a massive impact shatters the ground, and a character cries out in pain, with a voice observing that two people are now very close. A character declares they have no intention of returning to Dragonia, stating their only option is to head straight. Meanwhile, another character finds the situation hopeless, but dismisses something with a cheerful note. The scene then shows a violent impact, and a distressed figure realizes that talking was futile. The dragon Breed is riding is in the thick of action, kicking up debris as it moves through the terrain. Odin, the rider, admits he doesn't know the area well but is relieved to have brought the dragon. He wonders if their opponent's calculated movements are intended to lead them into a trap. Odin then tells the dragon, "I'm counting on your sense," as the dragon lets out a low growl. Meanwhile, in the distance, another figure is shown moving rapidly. Odin asks for a way forward, observing that their target is about to make a move but doesn't seem shaken. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocks the rocky terrain. A description highlights the dragons, though appearing slow, are incredibly agile once they gain speed. Odin then questions if they were being guided to this place all along. Not bad, one character observes. Another reacts with surprise, saying, "Siege." A thought follows that someone likely tried to close the distance during an opening, but the rough terrain means nothing to Odin and his skill as a rider. A tap sound is heard, and a voice declares, "But don't think this is over." Then, with grim determination, a voice proclaims, "My pursuit has just begun." The attacker's massive dragon unleashes a powerful strike, shattering the terrain. A figure is sent reeling from the impact, crying out in pain and surprise. Nearby, a man reacts with shock and distress as the destruction unfolds. A powerful impact shatters the terrain, sending a figure reeling and lamenting their failing vision. They declare they are done for, unable to dodge the attack. Their opponent, a woman, watches with a confident smile, stating there is no way to escape. Facing the inevitable, the figure resigns themselves to what comes next. A woman with intense eyes states that someone has slightly miscalculated. Meanwhile, a massive impact shatters the terrain with a declaration of breakthrough. In a different area, observers note that the left path is blocked, but if they go straight ahead, it would have been bad if certain rocks had fallen moments earlier. A character grits their teeth in pain, blood on their face, as sounds of destruction echo around them. Below, a massive impact tears open the earth, creating a vast chasm, and a figure cries out in terror as they fall into the depths. A woman reveals that the rock slide was merely a feint designed to limit escape routes and cloud Odin's senses with dust. A shocked observer realizes their real aim was to drive them toward the cliff. The woman, sitting confidently, declares that everything is proceeding precisely as she calculated. A triumphant figure declares that both Odin and his dragon shall belong to them. Meanwhile, Odin's dragon recoils as someone cries out for him to stop. Cornered by a massive cliff, Odin appears to be preparing for a desperate jump, met with disbelief from observers who warn there's no way he can make it across. Cornered by a massive cliff, Odin's vehicle or mechanism begins to break apart under immense pressure. Despite the dire situation and his dragon's distress, Odin steels himself and shouts, "Fine, go. Just jump already." He then seems to make the desperate leap across the chasm. Odin makes the desperate leap across the chasm. In the vast sky, debris falls as a star-shaped object, possibly his vehicle or dragon, struggles through the air. Below, a figure's eyes widen in despair, realizing their situation is hopeless and declaring, "It's over, I'm done." Odin is violently ejected from his struggling dragon, both tumbling through the air amidst debris. A colossal eye watches this desperate turn of events. Odin's dragon struggles through a chaotic sky, smoke billowing around its massive form as Odin clings to its back. Meanwhile, debris crashes against a cliff edge and a figure tumbles through the air. Someone cries out Odin's name in distress. Odin's incredible leap across the chasm leaves observers stunned, one questioning how he managed it, wondering if he sensed the terrain by smell. The woman who set the trap is shocked, exclaiming in disbelief, but her surprise soon turns to admiration. She declares Odin has shown her something truly amazing, now wanting both him and his dragon more than ever, acknowledging their trust, leaping ability, and awareness. A powerful exclamation of surprise and an intense gaze follow. The woman who orchestrated the trap, impressed by Odin's leap, declares that if a heavy dragon can jump the chasm, a lighter beast certainly can, and now it's time for the next jump. Observers comment on her intense pressure, noting it's not surprising she could cross the gap. Meanwhile, someone reacts to her terrifying anger. The command to jump is emphasized as the action is about to occur. The woman expresses frustration that she couldn't catch her targets despite having the advantage, lamenting that beasts never listen when it matters most. She stands over a defeated creature, declaring she doesn't know what it is. Meanwhile, a man, seemingly Odin, acknowledges he will have to give up for today due to his condition. Someone instructs a distant figure to breathe and to remember something. The woman, her gaze sharp and a predatory smile on her lips, declares that the next time she meets Odin and his dragon, they will both be hers. She warns them to be ready for it. Meanwhile, a man, bleeding and in distress, cries out as he is forced to retreat, while a trembling creature is roughly pulled along, crying out in fear. Odin collapses, gasping, "I'm saved. That was close." He realizes they escaped by sheer luck, acknowledging the formidable power of Drygenia's Dragon Knife Force Captain Sarah. He muses that if she had been on a dragon, they would have been flattened or caught instantly. Meanwhile, Captain Sarah, with a confident smirk, declares that next time, they will be hers as a desperate plea for mercy echoes. Sama returns, met with ecstatic cheers from a crowd who hail him as the hero who drove away Drygenia's forces. People admire his dragon, calling it cool, while Breedsen himself humbly questions the warm welcome, feeling he didn't do much and doesn't consider himself a hero. A woman declares, at least, and to the people of Leviton. Meanwhile, a determined man clenches his fist, realizing his actions actually meant something. He then observes, "So what did I see?" as a large crowd erupts in cheers and raised arms. Later, in a library, the man ponders him. The woman with the black ribbons asks if Odin pushed back Drygenia's forces. Meanwhile, a younger companion notes that Sama is truly something as a dragon master, and his technique suggests a deep bond with his beast along with impressive stamina and sharp instincts. The woman receives a report and confirms that it was a close call, but they managed to succeed. He then comments that Odin seems to be a promising talent as expected of a princess, though she expresses concern about his low self-esteem. The character asks if someone's attitude makes people scared of them, noting it can be hard to read. Sama, however, proudly declares she has a great eye for men and knew someone was special the moment she saw him. Another character calls Iana's words bitchy and something a princess shouldn't say, warning that her bold lines are ruining her modest princess image. Iana reacts with outrage, calling the other person rude, but someone else finds her innocent reaction super cute. The first character then tells Iana to shut up and focus on her report. Reed's report proved accurate. The enemy nation was indeed riding beasts and making rapid progress in constructing a sizable fortress. The dark-haired woman muses that one of them, Sarah, even cornered Breedsen while riding a mole lizard. noting she was quite the beauty. Meanwhile, a blonde attendant laments their shortage of manpower and wishes to recruit skilled individuals, while another asks if Sarah used to be breed sans superior. The enemy is acknowledged to have capable personnel. Someone recounts a past obsession, quoting, "She was super obsessed with him, Tilda. Come back to me." Meanwhile, a young woman asks, "What's the matter, Tilda?" as she observes something with a thoughtful silence. The scene then shows a grand, imposing castle. A subordinate confirms that Leviton sent an assassin who destroyed the fortress in an explosion. Her superior roars in disbelief that the fortress construction failed, demanding to know if she realizes how much money was spent. She replies that they also let the culprit escape and are ashamed, but her superior retorts that she has nerve making such a pathetic report and asks how she intends to atone for the immense failure. An older man facing judgment states he is prepared to accept any punishment and is fully aware of His Majesty's wrath. Meanwhile, a woman reveals she was once a knight princess of a ruined nation, and serving in Drygenia's military was already a humiliation, making it too late for her to fear death. As someone is sentenced to death, a younger figure calls out, "Hold on, father." The man facing judgment accepts the sentence of death, remarking that it is too kind. Marco questions this, suggesting that the life of a mere female general and the cost of the unfinished fortress are too cheap a price. The woman identified as the female general reacts with shock and distress to the command that she should make her work as a slave. The woman who was once a princess general of a fallen nation is deemed to have been made knight commander based on skill alone, a naive decision. She was described as a spoil of war, and it is decided she should forfeit all her rights and work as a slave, much like those crushed by debt. A man, Marco, agrees to this, and then appoints the person he is speaking to as the new captain of Drygenia's Dragon Knight force, stating that the former princess general will be given to him as his slave. The former princess general, now reduced to a slave, looks on with wide, fearful eyes, stammering, "I am truly honored." Behind her, a shadowy figure grins, clearly pleased with her fate. Elsewhere, a room echoes with a derisive, maniacal laugh. Former princess general, now a slave, is presented in a maid outfit and chains. The new captain of the Dragon Knight force remarks on her appearance. She, in turn, nervously corrects him, asking if she should call him former captain. Meanwhile, a man chained nearby smugly observes that he never imagined he'd get someone to serve him like this. As the former princess general's mind races with fearful fantasies about what she'll be made to do. The man comments that he expected her to be violated, but she is too valuable. The former princess general, now a slave in a maid outfit, reveals it is the fourth prince, low in the line of succession. She laments it without any fancy education or achievements. She sees no way to win the succession battle against her elder brothers. She then states that forcing oneself on someone is too soft, but the man who now holds her captive explains that he needs her knowledge and battle expertise to bridge the gap between his brothers. The former princess general, now a slave named Sarah, is chained and dressed in a maid outfit, looking distressed. Her captor tells her, "I'm counting on you, okay?" and calls her Sarah-chan, forcing their reliance on her skills. A man asks if there's a new job, and a woman confirms with a yes. The blonde woman explains that Drygenia is clearly trying to invade Leviton territory, reminding them about a previous fortress. She then states that they are going north of Leviton to gain the cooperation of the Jig tribe and head to the mountainous region. A man questions the mention of the Jig tribe, and she concludes that unifying the Altair region is essential. The Jig tribe are elite warriors, forged by a harsh mountain lifestyle, with strongholds scattered throughout vast mountains. They even know how to command dragons. One character expresses reservations, saying, "That's fine," but another states, "Relying on you again for this mission, breed." So albeit they then realize that if an alliance can be formed with the Jig tribe, Drygenia won't be able to invade so easily. The maid-clad former princess general states her intention to come along this time. The new captain, shocked, insists he will handle things alone, but a young girl accompanies. The maid tells him to make sure to protect her properly. This causes the captain to become terrified and stammer in panic. The character with bunny ears remains silent, prompting an outburst from another who demands honesty. The silent character replies that she cannot simply throw out words so lightly. Meanwhile, three maids discuss how to express themselves, with one suggesting a softer approach, "Protect me." Elsewhere, the captain, contemplating dragons, learns that the next mission is in the mountains. A young person faces two immense monstrous figures and asks, "You guys right?" Story will continue in chapter 14. The great dragon, Double, is described as agile and strong, adept at climbing trees and navigating rough terrain, possessing an excellent sense of smell. The mole dragon, Mindba, is noted for its mole-like strength, capable of tearing through the ground and breaking rocks with its sharp claws. Meanwhile, characters discuss a team ideal for mountainous terrain, highlighting their top-class solo combatability, intelligence, and adaptability in any situation, mentioning the Crimson Dragon, Barbarossa, as well. One character questions if just 3 dragons will be enough for the mission ahead. The group discusses their objective, forging an alliance with the Jig tribe. They decide against bringing too many dragons, as it might seem threatening. The blonde girl believes that with 3 dragons and her companion, even a large army would pose little trouble, though she asks not to be overestimated. Meanwhile, a man tells a dragon named Vina he is counting on her again, adding that a shinobi maid can handle the finer points. Suddenly, a dragon lets out a mighty roar, and the man declares they are ready to move out. The rugged mountain terrain is vast and imposing. A dragon remarks that the path ahead is in pretty rough shape, noting that diplomatic exchange with the Jig tribe has been lacking for a while. Nearby, a person in a dress observes that this road looks like it was used in the past. The man carrying an enormous load is asked why he isn't using a dragon, but he explains that dragons are surprisingly sensitive and can't be burdened with heavy luggage. He insists the load is no problem, even though it weighs around 500 kilograms. Meanwhile, someone voices worry for Yana-sama. The blonde woman reassures someone that she is fine, despite feeling a bit overheated, and offers to carry luggage or ride a dragon if needed. Meanwhile, the concern is raised about another character's well-being, asking if they are okay. A request for Vina water is quickly granted, and a bottle is dropped. Vina pours water over herself to cool down. A companion remarks that nothing can easily knock her down. Feeling better, Vina declares she is ready, and the blonde girl addressed as Breed calls for them to move out, telling everyone to follow her. The captain acknowledges the order. The imposing mountain landscape stretches out before them. The group presses onward along a narrow cliff path, with the blonde girl noting they have finally reached the halfway point. Another warns them to be careful, as falling off the cliff would mean the end. Suddenly, they stop. The blonde girl points ahead, and a companion asks why they've halted, wondering if something is wrong. The group's shortcut is blocked by a massive obstruction, forcing them to consider finding another route. However, one of them reveals they brought someone along specifically for this kind of situation. The imposing, armored creature named Minba lets out a growl, ready to tackle the obstacle. Reed expresses doubt that Minba can break the massive boulder blocking their path, even with her strong claws, fearing she might injure herself. However, a companion reveals Breed's special-made claw covers and gauntlets combo, assuring that they have the perfect tool for the job. Minba is then instructed to act, and she strikes the obstruction with a powerful impact, shattering the boulder and clearing their route. Minba's strike connects with the obstruction, unleashing a tremendous impact that sends debris flying. The path ahead is cleared by the sheer force of the blow. The massive obstruction shatters under the immense force of Minba's strike, sending debris flying as the path ahead is finally cleared. The massive boulder blocking their path is obliterated, sending debris flying in a spectacular display of force. The man praises Minba, calling her a good girl and noting her claws seem fine. The hyena agrees, and someone remarks that the hyena crushed the huge boulder with incredible power. The blonde girl then declares it's time to move on, and the man eagerly agrees. Under the moonlight, the group has made camp in the mountains. As the night deepens, preparations begin for dinner. Ingredients like onions and carrots are sliced, and a large pot simmers over a fire, filling the air with the aroma of curry. Vina, wearing an apron, begins serving the meal onto plates while a cheerful companion cheers her on. The man observes, telling Vina to do her job as they prepare to eat curry. The blonde girl expresses her hunger for Yana-sama's homemade curry. Meanwhile, as night falls, a small creature growls, and someone tells Double to gather firewood, which Double agrees to. Suddenly, Double's mouth lets out a low growl, and Double asks what's wrong. The man continues gathering firewood while the intense gaze of a fierce creature is revealed. Someone exclaims, "No way," as a menacing presence is felt. The character expresses concern, noting that if it is the Jig tribe, they are supposed to be allies, and attacking them would be a significant problem. The beast companion growls, and the character wonders if it could be the Jig tribe. The protagonist then crouches down, addressing the unseen entity, and calls for it to show itself, stating they mean no harm. A figure in a hood concealed by foliage observes the surroundings. A voice exclaims in surprise, "A kid." The hooded figure draws a sword, identifying the presence as an intruder, and issuing the command to kill. The hooded figure then attacks, catching the surprised individual off guard. The hooded attacker strikes, sending someone reeling back with a cry. The attacker orders Double to go call for help. Despite pleas that they don't want to fight, the attacker relentlessly presses on, ignoring calls to wait. Realizing their words are unheard, the protagonist is told to die, with the attackers showing no care as they continue their assault. The hooded attacker declares the situation to be for the protagonist, who is caught behind them. Suddenly, a blonde girl, Fiona, leaps into action, shouting that she won't let the attacker take down Breeds and so easily. As she moves, another maid-like figure shouts, "Oh," while Fiona herself lets out a "Why?" "Oh," as a massive weapon swings into view, clashing with the attacker. Fiona declares to the hooded attacker that they are about 10 years too early to fight her. The attacker grunts in response, but Fiona lets out a cry as she swings her massive weapon, clashing with the assailant. Fiona's massive weapon clashes with the hooded attacker, who manages to get a gotcha in. Meanwhile, Breed observes, remarking that it's as expected of Vina. Elsewhere, a figure sits observing the surroundings, musing, well, Tilda. The hooded attacker, revealed to have rabbit-like ears and fangs, looks down from above, holding a weapon and challenging, "Let's see who you really are, Tilda," as the protagonist lies below. The hooded attacker, revealed to have rabbit-like ears and fangs, looks down from above, holding a weapon and challenging, "Let's see who you really are, Tilda," as the protagonist lies below. Suddenly, a maid character screams in surprise and an explosion erupts. The attacker, a cloaked figure, sits amidst the chaos, while another maid character shouts, "Come Kuchu Lane." The maid character then cries out in shock, "Hinaya?" as she is struck. Below, a man exclaims in disbelief as a large, round creature with a horn and sharp teeth is revealed, identified as a fairy dragon. Elsewhere, a man recognizes it as a flying dragon used by the Jig tribe, noting it looks cute. A sound is heard, and a hand holds a whistle-like object, which is then blown into, producing a high-pitched sound. Someone observes that an individual plans to escape by grabbing onto the dragon, but the protagonist vows to stop them. Meanwhile, a character calls out to a creature named Ku Chuling to come back, but it seems to be escaping, prompting a surprised reaction. The hooded attacker realizes the whistle used by the protagonist mimicked a dragon's cry. They decide to copy the dragon flute, a secret Jig tribe technique, using a stronger whistle to overwrite commands given to smaller, less intelligent dragons. As the attacker blows the whistle, the protagonist holds the small dragon creature, which taps his hand. The protagonist is frustrated, thinking, how dare he be better than me? The protagonist comforts the small creature, but a sudden shock registers on another's face. As the protagonist recoils, the hooded attacker lunges forward with a needle, announcing its poison. The protagonist is thrown down, clutching the creature, and curses as the attack lands with a powerful impact. The hooded attacker reveals their intention to capture Breed alive, stating they are too valuable to kill and will be taken back to the village to become one of us. As Fiona cries out no. Amidst an explosion, the attacker seizes Breed and flees, prompting a cry of Breed's name. The protagonist groans and as a bright light shines. He finds himself in an unfamiliar tent, sitting up in bed and disoriented, wondering where am I, and what is happening. Someone approaches, saying, you finally. The protagonist awakens, his memory slowly returning, and realizes with shock that he has been kidnapped. He wonders what his captor is planning. Meanwhile, the hooded figure who brought him here makes a sudden movement, landing before an unseen individual. This person declares, you've caught my interest, prompting a surprised what? From the hooded figure. The hooded figure acknowledges the protagonist's skill with the dragon flute, calling it top-tier dragon tamer ability. He explains he tried to sneak in using cooking smells but was noticed immediately, and that he'd been tailing the protagonist's group but couldn't get close. The protagonist clarifies he's not a dragon knight, but a dragon master who takes care of dragons. Meanwhile, members of the Jig tribe tell the protagonist that if he comes to their village, he'll be treated well, receive big rewards, and could even become their next chieftain, urging him to stop being a support guy and become a warrior instead. Breed Stallion, a dragon master under the Leviathan Kingdom, declines an offer, stating his name and allegiance. The protagonist admits he's not a fighter but is proud of his work, and now likes Breed even more. The protagonist is then told he's really something, and Breed praises him for staying humble despite his power, calling it rare and admirable. The protagonist, reflecting that he really doesn't think he's special, is then asked by a hooded figure kneeling beside his bed, become my husband. Stunned, he exclaims, what did you say? The figure then adds, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Elu. Elu is revealed to be the daughter of the Jig tribe chieftain. The protagonist reacts with shock, exclaiming that she is a girl. Elu finds this amusing, laughing and remarking that she doesn't mind being mistaken sometimes. Breed is told to come along as the next step is getting the chieftain's permission, but he exclaims in surprise. He finds himself in a village built high in the trees, with bridges connecting various structures. Reed decides to stay put and wait for Fiona and the others, noting that while it doesn't seem like they plan to kill him right away, he also realizes there's no way he can escape this place. Elu walks ahead, with Breed following, still contemplating his predicament. The protagonist feels a strong hostility from everyone around him, as if they mean to kill him. Elu explains this is because she declared him her husband, and the other tribe members are her potential fiancés. She tells him the Jig tribe values strength above all, and she sees him as the strongest man she's ever encountered. Elu further explains that as the chieftain's daughter, it is her fate to marry the strongest warrior of the clan, and everyone competes to prove their strength to decide the next chieftain. Elu finds the protagonist's face appealing, remarking that he is pretty much her type. The protagonist can only respond with a flustered A. Elu then announces that they have arrived. Elu arrives with the protagonist, announcing to her father that she has brought him. They stand before the chieftain, who is seated on a throne in a hall filled with tribe members. An imposing figure, wearing a large hat and elaborate markings, observes them. The chieftain observes the protagonist, noting his good eyes as Elu's chosen man, but states this alone isn't enough to convince the rest of the tribe. The protagonist protests vehemently, declaring he won't accept this and was dragged there against his will. Elu acknowledges his point and decides it's time to play along with the situation, while another observer notes that the protagonist is clearly against the marriage. The protagonist struggles against Jig tribe members, insisting he never agreed to marry Elu. One of his captors declares that only a man of the Jig tribe can be acknowledged. Then a formidable warrior named Kauts, who proclaims himself Elu's top fiancé candidate, steps forward. He challenges the protagonist to prove his strength, and the protagonist defiantly accepts, ready to fight on the spot. Kauts declares he hasn't shown his true power as he throws a powerful punch. The protagonist is surprised, realizing Kauts stopped his own punch with ease. Kauts comments that the protagonist is strong, but then lands a devastating blow, sending the protagonist reeling. Kauts mocks the protagonist, declaring he's not so tough after all, as the protagonist is overwhelmed by tribe members. However, an unseen figure calls out, "That's enough." The protagonist's hands are shown being crushed by immense force, and he cries out in shock, realizing the terrifying power of his opponent. Kauts continues to crush the protagonist's hands with immense force, causing him to scream in agony and shock. The protagonist is violently thrown back, screaming as immense force batters him. A powerful blast erupts, shattering the ground and debris flies everywhere. He gasps in shock and a voice declares, "I said that's enough, all of you." Reed Stallion cries out that he is a dragon master serving the kingdom of Leviton and Princess Fee, Yana, and has no intention of becoming Elu's husband or their next chief. He then asks if they are still coming. The Jig tribe members stand in a tense silence. Reed, holding up one hand, declares he can do it with just one hand. Others remark that he's a monster, like a dragon, and not even human, especially after that roar. Meanwhile, Elu praises Breed for his guts and calls him a real man. The tribe members cheer, proclaiming that he beat Couts in a test of strength. Elu then asks if Breed ignored her, stating that if he becomes their groom, the Jig tribe will rise to new heights. Elu reassures the distressed protagonist, guaranteeing he would make a great chief. Meanwhile, someone observes that he has won Elu over and vows not to let this opportunity pass. The protagonist declares he will win fairly and square to marry Elu, and then states he will beat his opponent down. However, his expression turns to despair as he concludes this is a lost cause. The protagonist and Couts grapple, straining against each other with immense force. Couts appears to be overpowering the protagonist, who is thrown back amidst flying debris. As the protagonist recovers, a figure with white hair tells him to be quiet, stating they have already done this 100 times. Couts, heavily injured and marked, shouts defiantly at this figure identified as Breed, demanding one more round. Breed agrees to share information about the fairy dragon in exchange for learning about the dragon the other person raised. Rouse, unsatisfied, questions if they had already spoken at length the previous day. Meanwhile, Circan's affinity for dragons has proven effective, but the rider expresses frustration at losing a dragon riding competition for the first time, especially since they just competed hours ago. Someone then challenges Breed to face Zircon in a dragon riding contest. A character reacts with shock, demanding a choice be made regarding the 3 Valor generals of the Jig tribe. Meanwhile, a man with glasses devises a plan. If one of the generals is chosen as Elu's husband instead of him, he will train that person to gain the chieftain's approval, thus freeing himself from responsibility and making negotiations easier for Fianna. In another scene, a character asks sorry for what. Elu proudly presents a dish, declaring she'll be a great wife. The protagonist, impressed by the food, states that much of the Jig tribe's cuisine is satisfying, calling it unexpectedly delicious with creative herb-grilled meats and buttery sautés. Elu urges him to forget other matters and just eat. The man enjoys a drink called couche, finding its bittersweet taste intriguing. Elu warns him not to drink too much, but he explains he needs to recharge and can't stop. He then turns to a map, asking about the safest route, but is interrupted by someone challenging him to arm wrestling and another mentioning a wild dragon in the village. Elu shrugs it off, saying well, whatever, while the man continues to drink. An elder tells Elu she has found a fine man. 2 others discuss how the 3 Valor generals, once rivals, are now united, confirming someone's accurate judgment. Despite her reservations, Elu declares she will acknowledge Breed as her successor and husband, to which one person agrees, while another boasts about their keen eye for people. The father declares that Breed can only become chief if he overcomes a trial. Elu is shocked, asking if a trial is truly necessary. Her father confirms that Breed is not one of their tribe, and Elu questions if he's serious. She then states that unless Breed achieves something of great magnitude, the others won't accept him, and he won't earn the right to be chieftain. The wide shot shows a desolate, hilly landscape under a cloudy sky. In the forest, a character with long white hair walks away as another asks what's wrong, commenting on coming deep into the woods. Elsewhere, Breed is called and walks away from a group who note that others have joined them. The protagonist, looking distressed, asks if someone is secretly trying to let him go home. Elu stands before a fearsome dragon-shaped entrance, declaring that from this moment, the protagonist will undergo a trial. Below, other tribal members react with disbelief, questioning if Elu has lost her mind. Tribal members react with disbelief to the trial Elu has declared, noting that Breed isn't one of them and that the trial is insane, lacking the fairy dragon's blessing. Even they struggle with it. The protagonist acknowledges, but he cannot go against his father's decision. Meanwhile, a group of tribal members expresses confidence that Breed can succeed, leading the protagonist to wonder what the trial actually entails, feeling left out of the decisions. The others, however, are certain Breed's incredible and he will make it. Deep within a cave lies the fairy dragon's nest, and the trial is to retrieve one of their eggs. The protagonist, eager to study fairy dragons and their habitat, accepts the challenge, recalling his mentor's words that understanding dragon ecology is crucial for a dragon master. Breed, the embodiment of curiosity and cleverness, is called a worthy rival. Observers note his excitement and lack of fear, finding it insane. The protagonist, reacting with surprise, shouts to head out quickly. They approach the dragon-shaped entrance to the fairy dragon's nest, and the trial begins. Breed and the protagonist enter the cave, finding it lit by glowing moss. As they move deeper, the protagonist urges Breed to slow down, but Breed insists he is fine. Suddenly, the protagonist reacts in shock, asking Couts what happened and who attacked him. Couts claims he is fine, but another voice expresses doubt. Couts is injured by a falling stone, telling the protagonist to go on ahead while he rests. Deeper in the cave, a large hole blocks their path, and Elu declares she will go first, preparing to use a rope. Breed, however, confidently states he will handle the obstacle. Elu, having crossed a dangerous obstacle using a rope, expresses her relief. Behind her, Breed and the protagonist react to the terrifying creaking of the rope. A warning is shouted to Rouse, who is the last to cross. Breed then confidently declares his readiness to face whatever comes next. Rouse cries out as he struggles on a rocky ledge, a loud scream echoing through the cave. Meanwhile, Breed confidently swings from a rope across a gap, and the protagonist expresses concern for Rouse. Breed then looks down into a hole, remarking that someone is there and it's not that deep. Breed moves ahead, telling the others he'll see them later. The person left behind expresses concern about being next. The large masked face shows a shocked expression, while the protagonist and Elu observe a muscular, tattooed men seated nearby. The protagonist remarks that the situation is as he expected. Two figures discuss a participant who died proudly, only to slip and land awkwardly. The protagonist wonders why others even came along, while Elu notes that it's a cruel trial, as only the two of them are left. They are told the real trial begins now, and as they enter the cave, they are warned not to let their guard down. The path ahead ascends a grand stone staircase towards a distant structure within the cave. Deeper inside, a sudden thud echoes as someone stumbles or is struck. The protagonist shouts a warning to get down, his eyes wide with alarm. Meanwhile, Elu and another companion react to a sound, one asking if they heard something. The protagonist is struck by a powerful impact, gritting his teeth in pain. Elu confirms a grim truth: those without a blessing are attacked by dragons, and she had hoped Breed might be an exception. Breed reacts to the unfolding attack. Adult fairy dragons appear, and one character exclaims in surprise. Meanwhile, another character questions if they were seen as an enemy and attacked, while others observe smaller creatures, remarking that they look like Kuchulain and wondering if they are still babies. The protagonist explains that he has been blessed, which is why the fairy dragons do not attack him. Elu, however, insists that the drops the Jig tribe consumes from childhood, which grants this blessing, are still just poop, despite the protagonist's assertion that it's sacred matter returning to the earth. The protagonist then realizes this practice is the secret behind how the Jig tribe controls the fairy dragons, as the dragons recognize them as their own through this consumption. The protagonist spits out a drink, confused why he's still being attacked. He's told that the blessing only shows on the skin after regular consumption over a long time. Another character is horrified to learn the drink he chugged earlier was made from dragon poop. Meanwhile, a third character declines a drink, explaining that their changed skin tone and body scent are signs of the blessing. Elu explains that the fairy dragons haven't accepted those without the characteristic skin color change, meaning they are still seen as enemies. Someone tells Breed he will have to dodge the dragon's attacks and climb up. The protagonist and Elu look up to see a massive swarm of fairy dragons descending upon the rocky terrain, and the protagonist exclaims his disbelief at the overwhelming situation. The protagonist is struck by an attack, groaning in pain, as a fairy dragon lets out a fierce roar. Elu expresses frustration that she cannot get any closer to the situation. The protagonist finds it difficult to communicate with the wild dragons using whistling, and the overall situation is clearly not going well. A woman declares that Breed must complete the trial of retrieving a fairy dragon's egg to become her husband. Meanwhile, Breed refuses to stop, with someone noting the fairy dragon seem more agitated than usual. The protagonist, determined to see the fairy dragon nest, states there's no turning back. Elsewhere, Breed prepares to move forward, and a woman expresses her happiness that he would go so far for her. The protagonist examines some rocks, finding something. Meanwhile, Breed is told that climbing is dangerous and asked about his plan. The protagonist then catches a distinct smell, realizing he's found something important. Breed, holding an object, declares he will use it, prompting Elu to ask what it is. A character declares it's fairy dragon dung. This is explained as a method because many animals, especially dragons, identify their kin by scent from dung. The character recalls a past fieldwork method of rubbing dung on themselves to get closer to nests, thinking it was genius. The protagonist reacts, that's nasty. Meanwhile, Breed is praised for doing something amazing and nasty, which he acknowledges. The protagonist reflects that with this action, she might start to hate him. The woman remarks that it's super manly not to be afraid of getting dirty. Breed observes that the fairy dragons are clearly confused by his altered scent. Seeing this confusion as his opportunity, he declares it's his chance and begins to climb the cliff face. Breed observes that the fairy dragons must be building their nests on sheer rock walls to protect their eggs. He realizes he cannot reach them bare, handed from his current position. Bracing himself, he begins to climb the steep cliff face. Breed grunts with effort as he struggles against the immense, rocky form of a fairy dragon. With a determined now, he begins to climb its sheer rocky surface. Breed strains as he climbs the sheer rocky surface. Meanwhile, a massive hand reaches out, grabbing someone who is falling through the air with a scraping sound. On the ground, a character exclaims good, as a sudden impact or grab occurs, while another observer watches with wide-eyed shock. The nests of the fairy dragons are revealed, filled with eggs, prompting exclamations of awe. A large adult fairy dragon cradles the eggs, confirming they are indeed fairy dragon eggs. Meanwhile, the protagonist is discovered emerging from a massive, cracked egg, the size of an adult, as it becomes apparent that several of the precious eggs have been broken. The protagonist observes the surroundings, a low hiss escaping him. A massive fairy dragon lets out a fierce roar. The protagonist dodges a small, flying projectile while a large, cracked egg-like form makes a squeaking sound. The fairy dragon lunges forward, forcing the protagonist to flinch back. He then hears rustling sounds from nearby rocks and investigates. Meanwhile, two small rodent-like creatures are seen enthusiastically eating broken eggshells. Breed observes that the fairy dragon was agitated, because mice were eating its eggs. He reflects that while most would condemn the mice, they also need to eat to survive. He considers that it might be bad for an outsider to interfere with the natural order, but then declares, more than anything, I can't ignore them like this. He asserts, I am a dragon master, I live with dragons. A soft sound Pito is heard. Reed crouches, surrounded by swirling lines and a sharp sound effect, his expression intense. He sits on a rocky ledge, wondering if something can hear him. He then walks down a slope, hoping it's not too far. The protagonist looks down, startled, while a blonde girl and a small creature look up in shock. A massive fairy dragon appears, roaring with rage and lunging forward. Breed is reunited with his dragon, Dobble, who has grown significantly. He expresses his joy that his whistle reached Dobble, explaining that among dragons, Dobble's senses are unmatched, capable of detecting sounds from 10 kilometers away. Reed then tells Dobble he needs his help with something. Acknowledging the request is sudden, Dobble growls, reacting to an unseen threat. Reed stands with Dobble, looking up at the fairy dragon nests clinging to the cliffs. He indicates the area, saying "Pee there." Moments later, a powerful explosion rocks the ground. Elu arrives, surprised, asking Breed why he's making the creature spray around the nest. Reed simply tells her to keep watching. On the cliffs, figures are attacking the fairy dragon nests, while a large, dark beast sprays a liquid. A small, distressed squeak is heard as the beast continues its action. Suddenly, intense energy flashes, and a character's face contorts in shock. Mice, prey to most species, cannot risk approaching the scent of apex predators like dragons. A dog dragon's urine is a strong territorial signal that wild animals interpret as markers. Reed stands with Dobble, whose immense presence terrifies the surrounding mice. Reed finishes his work, telling the mice they'll have to find food elsewhere. He explains that a dragon's marking is so strong that weaker animals will avoid the area for years once it's claimed. A stern-faced creature observes, and Breed looks surprised as a large, powerful ally stands beside him. The scene then pans out to the rugged, mountainous landscape. The group marvels at Breed's abilities, exclaiming that he climbed a steep cliff without a rope and solved the problem of mice stealing eggs with impressive speed. They dismiss others as useless. Meanwhile, some characters question how they always manage to climb such sheer cliffs to reach their destination. Suddenly, one of them notices ropes hanging down the cliff face, realizing there was an easier way all along. Breed is told he has passed a trial and can take an egg back, but he protests, explaining he only wanted to study the fairy dragons. As the egg is returned, he is surprised to find himself face to face with a young fairy dragon clutching an egg. A woman explains that fairy dragons lay 2 eggs but only raise 1, and the Jig tribe takes the other as a gift, a tradition shared between them and the dragons. Reed realizes that every species has its own way of caring for eggs, noting that parents sometimes leave behind eggs that won't hatch as they won't waste food on weak hatchlings. He understands this is how fairy dragons have adapted, laying 2 eggs as a form of insurance. One is a spare survival strategy that explains why they don't mind the Jig tribe taking one of the eggs. The fairy dragon offers Breed an egg, which a woman explains is proof of its recognition. Breed admits he had planned to fail the trial on purpose, but now wonders if he'll be seen as having passed. Elu happily declares he's officially accepted as her husband, and 2 men proclaim Breed worthy to be their next chief and a perfect husband for Elu, prompting Breed to dismiss them as idiots. Elu asks Breed if he doesn't want to be her husband, to which he groans in response. Suddenly, Breed is struck by something falling and cries out in pain. Elu quickly tries to de-escalate, telling him to wait and listing her qualities like her devotion and ability to give good massages. A winged creature reacts with shock, questioning what is happening. Nearby, Elu asks, happening right now? While Breed, struck by something, cries out in pain and shock. The page ends with a note that the story will continue in episode 18. Vienna asks Breed if something is on his mind. Breed replies that it's nothing, but he can see that Yana-sama is really pissed off. Elsewhere, someone comments that Yana is scary. He sighs, wondering if he did something to make her that mad. He recalls falling off a cliff, getting separated, and staying in a village without sending word, concluding she must be furious. Meanwhile, a stern-faced woman is observed, and her companion explains that she's jealous over Lady Elu. As 2 characters arrive, one resolves to make it up to her, while the other reacts with disbelief. The Jig tribe's village is revealed, a settlement built high within the branches of a massive tree. Elu exclaims in wonder at the sight of the village. As they arrive, Elu pulls on Breed, who tells her to stop and suggests they fill their bellies first. Breed then addresses Elu more formally, but she responds by enthusiastically embracing him. Elu, fine with the idea, asks if they can go to the chief now, while Breed looks on nervously. The serious-faced woman insists that Breed has nothing to do with whatever is happening, but the other woman laughs, calling it a funny joke. Suddenly, the serious-faced woman is struck down, with Breed and Elu nearby. Breed has brought back a dragon egg, prompting declarations that he is fit to be the next chief and will marry Elu. Meanwhile, 2 women observe, one asking if other women are Breed's concubines, to which the other replies that it's natural for a strong man to have many. A character clears their throat, and another asks what they intend to do. A serious-faced woman, who was previously struck down, now kneels and asks to have a word with the chief. A woman introduces herself, stating it is a pleasure to make their acquaintance. She reveals herself as Fianna Shin Levitine, princess of the Levitine kingdom. Breed, meanwhile, wonders why a connection was cut off, recalling that the Jig tribe had dealings with Fianna's father in the past. The man with the hat asks if she is Orni's daughter, noting that Levitine is a nostalgic name. Fianna confirms her father was once in debt to him. She then states she will be blunt. Princess Yana Shin Levitine asks if the land is threatened by an invasion from Drygenia and proposes they join hands to fight and protect it. The seated leader before her, however, refuses her offer. Princess V. Yana asks if they have forgotten the war with Drygenia, and a man reacts with shock, asking why. He recalls that long ago, the Jig tribe and Levitine formed an alliance and fought Drygenia. They were prepared to fight to the end, never giving up, though they lost many men, because their enemies were terrifyingly strong. Yet despite their past struggles, Orny said they should surrender. The narrative reflects on Orny's, a brave fighter for his country who became a coward before Drygenia's overwhelming power. The Jig tribe leader rejects Princess Fi Yana's proposal to ally with Levitine again to fight Drygenia, asking if they are expected to do so. Expressing regret over past alliances, the leader declares, "Don't make me laugh." With intense fury, Princess Fi Yana's plea for an alliance against Drygenia is met with outright fury from the Jig tribe leader, who dismisses the idea with a roar of "Don't make me laugh." Meanwhile, Breed turns his head and Fiona looks on as the leader sits impassively. Elsewhere, a warrior in ornate armor stands with a group, while another scene shows Elu in a bandaged figure observing. Fiona, in a quiet moment, utters a single word, "Still." Princess Fi Yana explains that her father's decision was the reason they survive until today. He understands that not everyone would agree with his judgment, but as king, the duty to protect his country weighed heavily on him, leading him to make what he believed was the best decision at that time. Princess Fi Yana explains that the outcome was that the land was kept safe, and regardless of the path taken, it remained so. She suggests that perhaps others too would have lost more lives if they had kept fighting. She concludes that this is all part of history, noting that more than a decade has passed since her father left the throne, and that protecting the people is a king's duty and pride, a role her father fulfilled. Princess Fi Yana, now the new lord of Levitine, questions if it's honorable to remain stuck in past resentments. She declares it her responsibility to protect citizens like Breed, and asks if they cannot fight to defend their own land. She then asks if the proud Jig tribe, who live by the sword, and everyone residing there, also bear the responsibility to serve and protect this land. The scene then shows a place in ruins with debris scattered everywhere. A massive structure is violently torn apart, debris exploding outwards in a cataclysmic event. Amidst the resulting ruins, a monstrous figure emerges, roaring in fury and challenging someone with the words, "You dare."